recorded by Canton Cable, to be seen at a later time, if that is you so wish. First on the agenda is approval of the minutes of 6/12. I'll be looking for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All the, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Okay. Second, questions on the RFP and how to respond to them. Alice is going to put the RFP up on the boards. The RFP is basically put together, Town Council, Mr. Scollins, Chief Rafferty, and Louis Jutas. David, back on was it the 16th, said who'll be contacting the police department to get answers to these questions from the vendors and the other vendors. No one on this committee is privy to this information, which is correct. I couldn't answer half of the questions. So Town Council basically went over this and put it together. The first questions that came in, the CARE group really don't do police audits. They CARE listed as a digital forensic service that works on litigation support for clients with actual potential trial cases pending. So it wouldn't be too far of a stretch to say that they might have something to do with the Reed trial. The other one that's very similar that came in late Friday, Eden Bailey in California, with the Reed California lawyer, they had over 17 questions that were along a similar nature, a lot of things that really don't have to do with the audit that we'll answer. But it was necessary at that point to go to Town Council to make sure that we protected the town properly, which I believe that we've done. So, any questions or comments on the answers as presented?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So in regards to the first one that's up on the board, the answers that we're giving to these vendors, you know, they're just very vague. Communications will be made as promptly as reasonably possible. As you know, there's a public records law request in the Commonwealth, and you know, 10 days should be the maximum. But if we're having auditors travel from across the country to be in person to conduct an audit, they should be given access to that information that day. We shouldn't be requiring them to make multiple trips back and forth. That's only going to inflate the cost of this project.
Well, that's not saying that they're not. It's just saying as promptly as reasonably possible. And basically, that's from a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. You're not a lawyer. So they're answering it as lawyers. So to change what is written there, it's going to be very difficult for me to accept, because I know they're trying to protect the interests of the town of Canton, and I will support them 100%. So making any changes, it's going to be very difficult for me to accept.
Well, Mr. Chair, the FBI has just arrested and accused an officer of statutory rape, murder, and a host of other things. So this is something that wasn't even like on the table back then. This is a whole new angle that's been brought to light in this town. So I think it's time to stop covering
Was this a
for these
Canton
rapists
police
and,
officer?
excuse me, sir.
Was this a Canton police officer?
Canton police officers conducted the investigation into this and determined it was a suicide
Canton police officer,
for Sandra Birchmore.
yes. And the Canton police officers would have secured the scene and brought in the state police who do the homicide. They were not the ones.
You know, I also believe it was the medical examiner, not any investigator, that determined it was a suicide.
And again, this is investigation. We're looking at doing an audit, and only an audit. So making any changes to go after what you always wanted to do as an investigation, I'm not going to support.
Well, when it comes down to the price, this is going to overinflate the price, and I know you're going to end up complaining about the price as we get further into the discussion, because some vendors did come in and say that the $200,000 may not be reasonable. So if we're just putting out ambiguous answers, then it's going to have, we're going to receive bids that are going to exceed the $200,000. You know, these people are looking for preciseness. we don't want to have something that's just overly broad.
David, I believe me, I see what you're saying, but being the fact that they're vague about the questions that they may have, how would you answer that question? I mean, I have no idea what kind of a question that they possibly could be raising. I mean, how would you answer it not knowing what the question is?
Well, the question, is obviously stated, but what's the timeline to get the communications? So I believe later in the document that's provided up here, everything's digital. So there shouldn't be a delay for providing digital documents. Digital documents should be in a snap of a finger. Anyone could access them through any kind of search query.
I would agree if we
database.
were talking exclusively about digital and electronic communications, but I have no idea what kind of questions they may be asking. I don't want to see anything delayed either because I'm concerned about the price as well, but I just don't know how else you could honestly answer that question when you don't know what the questions might be, whether it's researching of records, availability of personnel, digital records.
Well, this specific question relates to communications between the police department and the select board.
Yeah,
So we've learned that
So
our
what
IT director can
questions are
go
we,
through
what
and query
communication
the
do they want?
database in a very easy way, using certain phrases. So if we have the personnel on site, that should be when the audit's happening. If an auditor for the IRS comes in, they don't allow you 10, 20, 30 days. This is just a way to potentially obstruct by saying, oh, we don't have that information. And another vendor raises questions about obstructing throughout the process that's on the agenda item, the STRIM group, and what methods are going to be in place to prevent obstruction.
I think every single one of us in this room is concerned about the price, as we're all taxpayers of the town of Canton. I personally don't want to see anything delayed, and I know you don't. I think Dr. Muse and Bob, Kathleen doesn't. We all want to see things done expeditiously, and I don't think that is a response that is trying to stalemate that. I think it's just lawyer speak, as Bob
But
says.
one of the responses that we'll see at a later question is all the information is digital.
Okay,
Why
but-
would we have a delay on digital
Because they have to go
information?
through the information and separate what is part of the audit and what may not be part of the audit. When you say town provide communication between police department and select board, well, there might be communications that have nothing to do with anything about the audit itself, and they'll probably want to separate it out. So it does have to be reviewed, or it has some information that would be private. But at the end of the day, you would be having to ask what exactly the communications they want, and they're saying they'll get it back as reasonably as possible. I assume that that's what they mean, as soon as possible, and they're not going to, are you looking for like in 48 hours, 72 hours? But if you're going to ask for that, then you have to specify exactly the information they're looking for.
So we do mention that it's digital information, and digital information should be provided at the time of the request. And if there is multiple queries on that search term that auditor is looking for, that's up to them to go through and look at it. We've granted unfettered access for this information, so it's up to the auditor to segregate and determine which information may be relevant to their review in this case. So I would move to update these, provide the digital information upon request.
No. You're taking the place of a legal. You don't have a degree. You're
I don't.
not protecting the town, and you don't even know if that's possible. So it has to be broad, because we don't know what they're gonna ask or when they're gonna
So
ask
now
it.
you're attacking my character.
No, you're not a lawyer, is what I said.
You
Are
you
a
said I
lawyer?
don't have a degree.
You
So
don't have a degree as a lawyer. That's what I said, and that's what I meant. Did you misunderstand me?
is this,
Mr. Chairman, point of
Mr.
order.
Chair, this is not like a way to talk to people in a public space, screaming and yelling at people's faces like that. This is highly irregular.
Oh, for somebody like you, that's,
For somebody like me, again, you're attacking my character. This
no,
is,
not your character.
this
You're
is
not a
very
lawyer.
disrespectful.
You're not a lawyer, are you?
You can't
Do you have a
treat, you
legal
cannot
degree?
treat me like
Do
this,
you
sir.
have a legal degree?
Point of
Sir,
order.
you cannot treat me like this. I don't have a legal degree, but I have common sense, and we know that our town attorney and other officials in the room and yourself are here to obstruct and cover for murders.
Whoa,
this
time out, whoa, whoa, whoa. So you basically.
Here we go.
Public comment.
Do we have a code of conduct in the town of Canton? Because you sure as heck don't
Which
understand
we
it.
don't, and you,
Oh, but we do.
and this wouldn't be a way to conduct a meeting by a chair if we actually did have a code of
I think it's a perfectly
conduct.
good way to conduct the meeting. by a
Screaming
chair.
and yelling
Asking
at-
if the one who's asking to change town council's opinion, who has a legal degree, from somebody who doesn't have a legal degree. And now is upset because I'm questioning the fact that he
No, it's
doesn't have
how
a legal
you-
degree.
Bob, it's how you question.
It doesn't
You're
mean-
yelling at him. You're yelling at him, and you tell us you're an expert in Robert's Rules of Order.
No,
so I'm
I didn't say
sure
I was an
you
expert. I
know
said I know it.
that
Don't put
decorum
words
and
in my mouth.
respect- I'm sure you know that decorum and respect run all through Robert's Rules, and you were shouting at Dave, and you were treating him disrespectfully.
No, I really wasn't. I was treating him as it should be. Let's move on and let's get this done. Next.
So I move to amend the first questions, answers A and B,
To what?
to provide information upon request to the auditor.
I second that motion.
We have a first and a second. Do we have any other discussion on that? All right.
Well,
vote.
hold on, you know, I suppose they're entitled, but I don't think we can make that judgment if we want to bring it back to the attorney to see if the way that it's being phrased is acceptable. But otherwise, I'm not
town
changing it. I myself wouldn't change it. I would either we just vote on it, or any changes would have to then be reviewed
We have
again.
to, it's a motion and a
We have to
second.
publish by tomorrow morning. So we're under a very tight time schedule.
Okay.
And we were told that town council would be hands-off on this,
No,
okay?
well,
This-
not when it comes to
You
protecting the
you
interests
said
of
that on the first
Well, we
day.
also
No,
know
and
that
I
town
qualified
employees
it
were
the
not
next
gonna be
meeting,
on
if you
the
go back and
committee.
look at it. After all the changes that come in with the laundry list, I qualified that. Go back and look at it.
Bob,
So
you
we
add-
have a
you
vote on
added-
the table.
You added
There's-
a laundry list as well. I would like to say something as discussion before the vote.
Go ahead.
Canton has become nationally known for its lack of transparency. And this answer signals to people who are considering bidding on this. This signals, well, as promptly as reasonably possible. That means it signals a possibility of obstruction. So if there is, I'm sure there's a better way to phrase this that wouldn't give that signal, or perhaps that is what perhaps that signaling is the truth.
We have a motion on the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Nay.
3-0. 3-2.
So in this case, we're probably going to have to submit a special town meeting article for supplemental funding.
Okay.
And I move that, we'll probably make a later motion that that we can write a warrant article to get supplemental funding, because these questions, if you're not going to budge on it, and you're going to allow the town attorney, who was supposed to be hands-off, and Mr. Scollins, who was supposed to have ministerial
This is
duties,
ministerial.
a lot of the things have not been ministerial.
Well, this is ministerial, maybe. You just don't understand ministerial, but this is
See,
ministerial.
there you go again, attacking me.
No,
So
I'm not That's a
you can argue
statement of
the
fact, not an
points.
attack.
David and Kathleen, and again, in all due respect, but when somebody asks me a question, whether it's a personal question or a professional question, if I can't give a definitive answer, I would answer, I can't tell you I would use the exact verbiage, but to maintain my credibility, I would tell you I will get it to you as soon as I possibly can, not knowing how long it's going to take to get you what you want. And again, I know you're referencing in large part digital communications, but again, I get back to the point, we don't know if those are the kinds of questions and that it's going to be requested of the town.
Have you read the full question and answer
I have.
response?
I have.
So you will see in there that it does say all of the communications are digital,
There's-
all the records.
All the records are the same as hard copies except digital. They still have to be reviewed for other reasons. There could be personal information.
Not on a
that
public
can-
records request, not during an audit.
These
I
are public
can't answer
records.
that question, but I'm assured, I can assure you that there could be some records that the union may want to keep away if it has personal information about people that should be kept personal. So they do review through it all before it's sent over. I can go to the Freedom of Information Act and get public records from the federal government, and a lot of stuff will be crossed out.
But this is not a public
And-
records request. This is an audit,
I understand it's an audit.
two different things.
Yes, no, I understand what you're saying, but there still could be information. Anytime this is done, whether it's a hard copy or a digital copy, it is looked over first. Make sure files that didn't get put in it that have nothing to do with the police, that just got mixed up. All those things can happen, similar to a file that you put in your drawer that you end up misfiling something. So it does have to be reviewed. And so
Well,
they're
let's
trying to say
move
that
on.
they'll get to it as soon as possible. And I think, quite frankly, I think they want this done as much as everybody else at this table.
Well, I would disagree.
So,
A
well,
thorough and independent audit, I would disagree.
Well, we disagree with your,
Yeah, well,
we
this-
think you're very
this-
biased when it comes to this, so.
No, by bias, you mean opinionated, right?
No, I mean biased. I mean,
Bias.
you've gone after the police chief and others and so forth, so biased.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you have a different opinion since your town meeting speech,
Right.
since the FBI has come?
Because
To,
you're not
We're doing an
biased.
audit.
Are you
That's an
presenting
investigation.
yourself
They're
as
two
not
different- they're
biased?
Two different pockets. You seem to be hung up, you think we should be doing an investigation. We're not.
Well,
Town meeting voted for an audit.
Mr. Chair, if you look in your RFP that you sent over, you actually referenced the word investigation about a dozen times in it. And
I don't-
that's what you put in there because you took it from Holyoke. And that's what they had in there. They were having an investigation, and this is in your documents, sir.
Not now. We're doing an audit, and we spent, what, 3 meetings for 3 hours each, bringing down, and we cut, what, 30% of that? And Kathleen basically went before the Finance Committee and town meeting and said, after the thorough investigation she did, $200,000 will easily be able to cover
No,
all of
Bob,
this.
please don't misquote me. You have a habit of doing that. Please don't
Oh,
misquote me.
okay. What-
Would you like me to tell you what I
Yeah,
said?
exactly what did you say?
I said that $200,000 would be what we would need to attract a national firm. What I had been told, and I did not give all of this in those remarks, but that was the low end of what we would need to attract a national firm. And we felt that we would take the low end estimate because we're taxpayers too, and we want it to be done, as thriftily as possible. You're adding a lot of words to what I said.
So 200,000 should be able to be.
Mr.
get it
Chair,
done.
Mr. Scollins in the room even referenced at one of the Finance Committee meetings, $200,000 would be enough. And
Oh,
you're
he said
acting
we
like
just
the
needed a
town has never
fraction of
had
that.
supplemental funding for any project. Every project you've worked on has supplemental funding. The rink, the Paul Revere site, you picked the highest bid on the middle school, $50 million higher, and you're worried about a couple of $100,000 to restore trust in our community. There's other projects, the library. We could go on and on about the projects that required supplemental funding or taking
We don't have that money
bonds
available.
from other
We can
projects.
we can only award with money in the till. Right now, the only thing we have in the till is $200,000.
How did you award then $50 million over what you had for the schools, for the school?
How did we win?
Bids came in at 170 million. You
Yeah,
picked one
and
for,
that's a long-term, and depending on the
240
state
million.
investigation and their turn back. We're also gonna be going through borrowing, go through town meeting. It'll be covered in that manner. It isn't all upfront money. I don't think you've been paying attention to some of that. The other items that we do, we vote, if we have a bid that comes in excess of money availability, we can't sign a contract. It's a dead issue. We only have $200,000.
but you know we can go for supplemental funding
But
in
you
a
can't
number
sign,
of
you
different
can't, you can't
ways.
do a bid on what you might or might not get. You have to have the money in the till, period.
The Energy Aggregation Committee just came and asked for extra money for a proposal they needed. And the
The
select
money
board
has
gave
gotta be
them
in the till.
mitigation funds, and they ended up going with a better vendor.
Bob, do you remember the speech that you gave at the special town meeting about how this was unnecessary, and you wouldn't risk your license, which I don't believe you have a license, but you said you wouldn't risk your license on this terrible, terrible project. Are you, you're
I
not
was
biased?
referring to
You're
Mr.
not-
Collins. I never
you're-
said I had a license.
You're not biased? Are you
I
saying?
also said, and you've also quoted me for the past 3 or 4 months, that I was against this audit. I said
were
further on in the
completely
same
against it,
speech.
on video.
I was in favor of the audit under the selectmen. Do you know why? Because they already were working on a scope of services that you never had. I said from the very beginning at town meeting, you needed a scope of service, you were lacking it. That was the most important thing to have, and you didn't have it.
Not
Now
for-
we have something.
Yeah, not for an article for town meeting, but that would be like having the fox edit the hen house.
I don't understand that.
Because the select board are the police commissioners of the town.
Do you trust anybody?
I certainly do. And once again, you're personalizing this.
No, well, I think you are by the previous comment.
No, those were public comments that you made, and you were very proud to make. You were
And
completely
you
biased.
cherry-picked what I said. I still have the speech if you
Completely
like.
biased. It's on video. I hope people go and look it up.
So don't I.
Yeah.
So don't I. All right, can we move on as to what we're gonna do with these others? Oh, we're gonna be here all night.
Well, it seems like it's going to be a 2-0 vote, but
Right.
we'll go through
Whatever you'd like.
for the motions,
We could bring it up now if you would want,
the obstructed
and
motions.
vote as it is, and see where it goes, or we can do this for the next 2 to 3 hours.
I'm perfectly fine with that, Bob,
Which?
with completing the task of the committee.
Well, explain that.
We
Do
have to
do
go
we
through
bring this up-
question by
Do we bring this
question.
up for a vote now, or do you wanna continue to wanna change all of these and we go through for the next 3 hours?
Well, let's.
You say it's gonna go
dis-
3-2.
We have an agenda item on the board and we're discussing it. So let's proceed with the agenda items and see how they
Okay,
play
all right.
out.
Well, I just want to be clear. Go ahead.
Okay, the next question. Will the audit process be delayed until the conclusion of the investigation, internal, state, or federal? The answer, the audit process is intended to be independent of all matters. So,
Other
Other
matters.
matters.
sorry, for some reason, I should have changed the font, but every email that comes out of the Office of the Finance is in like size 10 font, and it's very hard to read when printed. And I feel like that's done intentionally. But
Why can Mr. Scollin speak for the
Mr.
audience, but the other
This
audience
is not the
members
public
cannot
comment
speak?
section. And how come you're not reprimanding him, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Scollins, please, no comments from the chair until you're recognized.
Yes.
Oh, that's, okay. I understand, Rita. Yes, I will reprimand, you're reprimanded.
And just to be clear, discussing the size of a font is not someone's character, okay? It's the size of a font.
Okay, can we move on, please?
All right. What is the next one that you would like to discuss?
Have you put this together, or are you making this up as we go? I meant, have you written it out?
I have. If you'd like to see, I have actually
I can't say that.
written it out. I'm sorry, I'm being distracted. Everyone's, you guys
simple
aren't
question.
conducting a
If you've got it,
meeting under
you've got it
Robert's
done.
Rules of Orders, which is unfortunate. This is how our town is supposed to be conducting business, but apparently it doesn't matter in this town because we have people that hide in their closets and do Zoom meetings because they're scared of the public. And this is why, Mr. McCarthy, you're setting a terrible tone for the whole town. So,
I agree.
and you're gonna be on
May I
NBC
make a
News
motion,
again,
we
yelling
take
at
a
all of us.
5-minute break just for
No.
the room to
This-
cool down?
This is, at least you're not screaming, and screaming at the audience as you have at other audit meetings. So
If they
that's
get
a
out
little bit of
order,
an
I will.
improvement.
I
You
wouldn't
did,
want to
and you didn't.
disappoint you. 5 minutes?
5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay, we'll take a 5-minute break.
All in favor of the break?
All those in favor?
It doesn't matter what we think because it's 3-2. That's the way it was designed.
No, I think we need a break,
Kathleen,
that's all.
honestly, I think it'd be great just to cool the temperature in the room.
Yeah, that's
for
all,
5
that's
minutes.
all we're
Oh,
looking
I'm
to
being
do.
too emotional?
No, I'm not talking
Oh,
about
okay.
you. I'm just talking about all of us, all of us.
So let's just have a break,
is set from the top.
It's disrespectful.
take a break. Bob, may I speak to you, please?
Yes.
Bob, did you speak to Mr. Scollins out in the hallway?
I did.
Did I speak to Mr. Collins?
Yeah, you both went out into the hallway.
I said aye.
Yes. He came over and we spoke.
Nice.
Before you continue, I'd like to take
Are
for a
we back
second.
in session?
Hmm?
Are we back in session?
Yes, we're back in session. I would like to make a motion that we accept the questions and answers as assembled by Town Council, Randy Scollins, Chief Rafferty, and Louis Juchas.
Is that a ministerial request?
No. No.
Why did all three of you leave the room?
Yeah.
You're violating a procurement that's not supposed to happen.
So,
This is a
I
designee
asked,
where you're getting involved with.
I have never met Randy Scollins in person until this very moment. I didn't know who he was until his name was mentioned to me. Number one. Number two, I suggested it to Bob that we just move on because we've all read it. We have discussed it, and we, quite frankly, yes, the three of us, do not have any objections to what is written. So I anticipate that we're going to abide by what the town attorney said. And if we can go through it, but it will be a 3-2 vote.
But the town attorney was hands up. And wait, how do you know it's going to be a 3-2 vote when he wasn't even out there? So
Because it was
have you
designed
guys
that way.
colluded
We have a
beforehand?
motion, we have a motion on the floor
Beforehand. This
that's
is-
been
you're
seconded,
violating-
is that correct?
The rules of a committee and open meeting laws.
Do we have a motion on the floor?
Vote
Dave,
for the whole
Dave,
committee
you-
and
you-
say it's a
Dave,
3-2
you
vote.
Hasn't been
have a motion
seconded.
on the
Well, then
floor.
let's go through each one and see what the vote is.
No, we have a motion on the
That's
floor right
how
now.
committees work.
Now, we have a motion on the floor right now that's been seconded, that we accept the questions and answers have assembled and before us.
So can I
We
clarify?
had discussions on it, go ahead.
We actually haven't
People
had
who
any
answered the
discussions on it.
questions are the town council, the Louis Drutrus, who's another town employee, Randy Scollins, who is another town employee who, like Louis Drutrus, and the police chief works for the select board. So all the people who weren't intended to have anything to do with an independent audit, they've answered this question, these questions, and we're going to vote on it.
But then again, we have David on the 16th at 9:25 a.m., who will be contacting the police department to get answers to these questions from the vendors and the other vendors. No one on the committee is privy to this information. So he asked me to do it. That's what I'm doing it. We still have a motion on the floor. All those in favor?
I didn't say contact town council, I didn't say contact Randy Scollins, I said, for instance,
We have-
how many pieces of evidence do we have? Like, how would anyone, like, know that other than the chief of police?
We still have a motion on the floor. All those in favor?
How about discussion? Can we
One, two,
discuss?
three. Against?
We didn't even have
know
a
what the vote is.
discussion on it. You're
You know what the
violating
vote is.
Robert's rules again.
You know what the vote is. It was designed this
I
way
have
back
to
in
hear it
November.
publicly.
The town council said it would be illegal to do it any other way than to have three of you know people against the two petitioners.
Does that mean you're voting against it? You haven't said.
Okay, so first, you're obstructing
Wait a
the
minute.
cover for Kate.
Would you allow her to finish speaking?
No,
And be quiet,
I'm
please?
yielding to David.
Would you, what did you vote?
You're obstructing the cover for murderers in this town. All three of you.
You,
should all be
how
ashamed.
dare you even say that? You do not know if they were murderers. If there's
the
even a
FBI
case.
comes in,
The FBI
We
did not
know.
come in and
The
say
FBI
that
has
anybody,
come
any
in.
Canton police officer
Have you watched?
is a murderer. Yes, I have
Sandra
watched.
Birchmore was murdered
Number
in
one. Number
Canton.
two, they are innocent till proven guilty.
They haven't been charged with anything. That's
Yeah,
when
but am I
that
covering
protection
for a murderer?
attaches.
You're voting, what's
You
your
are
vote?
stating I'm
Yes,
covering for a murderer.
What was your vote? Abstain? Yes, no, abstain?
what's the question? We haven't even had
the
the
vote-
discussion part. You
Well,
violated
we already
Robert's
had a vote.
rules and we
I've
did.
got a vote on this.
Usually you have it,
Three,
under
two.
Robert's Rules of Orders, you have a discussion before you have a
We've had a
vote.
discussion.
We didn't have a discussion.
Are you able to see the questions and see the answers, or are you just gonna just shut us all down? 'Cause we
You're out of order because I haven't recognized you. Please leave.
And you've been
Please
speaking.
leave.
I'm not
Well, how come Randy
Please
doesn't have to
leave.
leave?
I am not gonna.
Come on.
So call the police on me if you want.
I would love to.
David,
Then go for it. Go ahead.
Let's go through each question.
Hit it,
We'll see
Randy.
here all
I'm
night.
tired of this. We come here.
Let's go
and
through
we
each
try to
question.
work with you, and all you're doing is yelling at people.
The public deserves
Please
to know
leave.
what the questions are, and you're withholding.
Please have the police come here and escort her
I
out.
would like Mr. Scollins escorted out for speaking out of turn as well.
No?
Yes.
No, that's my call, not yours.
not your call
No,
because-
No, and
You're covering for him.
Do you have a vote to have him
Randy's
leave?
calling the
I
police.
haven't
on
even
you.
had the discussion.
It's probably
His
the,
name is Randy Scollins and Rita, I'm sorry, just Randy's.
And I come in peace,
Covering for murderers.
Oh, Jesus.
but we are being yelled at, and we are being excluded, and all we're worried about is protecting the town. An audit is protecting the town.
You're out of order. Please sit
You
down.
know what? You're all out of order.
You're all out of order.
You're
Thank
out
you.
of order. You're the
Please sit
leader.
down.
You're the leader.
Please sit down.
I did.
Despicable.
I did.
Yes, you. You can talk out of order, and you call the cops on
Collins,
someone
do you
for
want to-
talking out of order? That's called bias in this town, Mr. Scollins. Are you gonna remove yourself from the room for talking out of order?
Patrolman, they got an 80%.
Are you gonna remove yourself? See, this is how the Canton cronies run the town.
Rita, please be quiet.
And see,
Well, how else am I gonna get her to be quiet?
well, you're no different. It's, you two are
could show
both
leadership.
yelling at each
you
other.
could show leadership, and I just want to
There's no
know,
decorum in this
I just want to
room.
note that Mr. Scollins works for the taxpayers. No, he's paid by the taxpayers.
He works for the select board. He doesn't work for us.
But by his,
Please be quiet. Now, what is the will of the committee? Do we want to vote this at this point, or do you want to table it and then go through these item by item for 3 hours? It's gonna be 3-2 down the line, I assume, because I'm not gonna change my mind.
That's not how Robert's rules
Well,
work. You
well,
don't just
let's-
assume votes.
Let's,
You have a discussion. You're not even conducting a meeting in the right way.
We will
If
go
we had a
through
code
each
of
one of them.
conduct,
Go ahead.
this would.
Go ahead.
We're
You
going
wanna go
through
through
each
each
one.
one? Bring it up, let's go.
You know, David, I don't know anything about Robert's rules, and I will never say that I do, but I know one thing that I'm assuming is part and parcel. You never accuse people that are sitting on a panel with you of covering for murderers. I spent 32 years of my life investigating convicting murderers. And now I'm sitting here as a volunteer on a committee, and you, who don't know me, you know nothing about me, you know nothing about Dr. Muse, and you're accusing us of covering for murderers. I'm a little offended by that. I'm a lot offended by that. I really am.
I'm offended by what you're saying to me and what he's been
What did I,
saying
what,
to me
what,
this
did I-
whole
what did I,
time, and
what did I say
what
to
this
you?
person's been
David,
saying.
But David,
Jack
what did
has said
what did I
nothing.
say to you?
no, he didn't accuse, he said there were people who covered for
No,
murderers.
it was a blank-
He
it was a-
didn't say,
it was a
Jack, you
blanket
and you, Dan,
statement.
he didn't say that.
It was a blanket statement, and I,
Well, I think that you're feeling, of course, a natural loyalty
he
to the Massachusetts State
no,
Police, which you
he
served for many
pointed
years.
to us and said, "You're covering for murderers."
I have not been a member of the state
Obviously,
police for 18 years,
because
Kathleen.
Of Sandra Birchmore.
But that was, you retired from the Massachusetts State Police.
No, I retired from a college.
Okay.
That was my most recent employment. My loyalty currently is to the town of Canton. And I know Dr. Muse and Bob, and I know that you two want to get this done correctly. But I think the way to get it done correctly is not to throw bobs and bricks and bats at people who are on the panel trying to accomplish the same things as you. I would never say to you
You
what
need to
you said.
remove the chair if you want to have that type of committee run.
And put you in
Again.
my place?
Motion to remove the chair.
Second,
Aye.
Discussion on, let's have a discussion.
Oh, we can have a
Discussion on that. Any discussion?
I think we're way too far beyond that, and that I'm against that motion.
Okay, so we have the vote. Aye. Kathleen? Mm-hmm. Yes?
yes.
Aye.
Aye. Jack? No?
No.
Dan? No? I
Yeah.
vote no. 3-2.
It's the arrogance, I think, that bothers the taxpayers, Bob and Randy.
Does?
Randy, too.
Who's
The
never
There's going to be
arrogance.
trust
I-
restored
I-
in this
and
town.
as he smirked
We
back
have
at
a police
me,
force
just to
that's
disprove it.
biased.
Yeah.
We're trying to establish police reform that can create some sort of unbiased police that's not just for a select few people in town.
again,
We-
this
we-
is an
we want
audit.
to be able to have trust restored and equitable policing. For instance, we had a diversity, equity, inclusion committee established at the fallout of the George Floyd riots to deal with police issues. And Ms. Halley could speak to what happened to her on that committee when she attempted to address some issues. The committee was not intended, didn't do what it was intended to do. And there's no place in this town for people to turn to that have issues with the police. And there needs to be a change here. The select board's obviously not doing any kind of reform. They're just turning a blind eye to it. They don't care. Half of their family works on the police department. It's turned into what appears to be an organized crime ring in this town.
Again,
And
Can we stop with the soliloquy?
please do not
and
use
concentrate on
and
these
this-
there
questions?
is nothing in there that they have done that says it's an
there's
organized
the appearance
crime.
of it, sir.
There is not.
That's the reason for the audit.
There is not. They had nothing to do with Sandra's case except to secure the crime scene. And then
They all-
a medical
that's not true.
examiner said that it was a suicide. As well, the state police comes in once it is secured, and I'm sure Jack could articulate that a lot better than I could
They
since
did
he
far
was
more
a
than
state
that.
police.
Chair,
They
this
did
person is
investigative
giving me
steps.
death threats right here. Mr. Scollins, he's giving me an eye that just looks like he wants to kill me. And
that-
you know
is
what?
that-
I've been intimidated in this town. I have the police
Rita, you should be out of this
parking
room.
next to me when I go to pick up
So please
my
leave.
dinner. You know, it's unfortunate.
I'm here because I'm concerned
All right.
and I'm following your.
I asked you to leave, so.
So
I make a
matter
motion
of-
that nothing is said
excuse me.
except has,
Excuse me, I had as a matter of record, anybody can go and look at the police reports involving Sandra Birchmore, and the Canton Police were involved in the investigation during the early days, the most critical moments of any investigation, I'm told. For example, now Lieutenant Lank went through all of the video, and in fact, in his report, he has the wrong date on it. We have 3 reports from Canton patrolmen who were there at the scene. So to say that the Canton Police were not involved is not correct.
What is this to do with the audit that we're trying to figure out on the questions?
I'm just correcting
What-
something that was
No.
said that was incorrect.
Let's concentrate on what we're here for tonight, not speculating on 2 trials that we shouldn't be even discussing. So what else do you, go down the list,
We
let's
have the
go.
police here, so I think we're probably going to have a break.
Well, I think they're only here for Rita to,
Excuse me, I'm getting death threats.
Yeah, but Mr.
Well, it
Scollins
looks
spoke
like he
out
wants
as
to
well,
kill me.
so if you're removing
not the
Rita,
manner that Rita did,
you need,
and I
oh,
reprimanded her.
See, this is the problem with the town. There's no equity in this town.
no,
There's
because
no-
throw out, make the
It's-
woman
it's
leave,
so
and the man who
biasly
broke, the
one-sided
man
as
who
you're
broke the law
proving
gets
in
to
the
stay,
moment.
but the woman who broke the law has to leave. Oh, that's so funny, Randy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the arrogance.
Are you going to continue with this list, or how you want it done?
Please proceed,
Let's go.
Mr. Chair. Will the audit process be delayed until the conclusion of another investigation, internal, state, or federal? The audit process is intended to be independent of all other matters. So we're saying we can't have an internal investigation, so it's going to be independent of internal matters. That doesn't make sense. You know, the part of this audit is to review the internal affairs investigation, which, as the document states, they don't even have a procedure for documenting that. So we need to see how that even happened.
What did you want it to say?
I read that answer, and to me, that's saying no. That's what that answer says to me.
I move to change the answer to no.
Okay, you have a motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Roll call?
Aye.
no.
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 No. 3-2.
So you just moved to change it to
No,
no?
David,
You
what I
you
said,
would
I'm
change
looking
it
at
to
that
no, and then
and-
you vote no on it, so.
No, I'm not,
Sending mixed signals here.
I also am not a lawyer. I look at that, and to me, the answer is no.
Exactly, and we want to change the answer to no, and you just voted not to change
Okay,
it to no.
what's next? What's next?
Move that we change the second answer to no.
Okay, motion?
Second. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No, no, no. 3-2.
The next one.
Will information be unavailable or delayed to the auditor
Three.
based on ongoing or upcoming criminal or civil court cases? The audit process is intended to be independent of all matters. So we can't look at any other criminal case that has ever been looked at. You're sending a signal to potential bidders. So
What is it you want in this place?
no. would be what we want in its place.
No?
But we've already voted that, so we would have to vote to reconsider. So we can't look at, you're telling the auditor they can't look at anything that you voted on to put into the proposal. All three of you voted on, these were
What's next?
unanimous.
What's
So
next?
you're telling them, you're just like redoing the whole scope on the fly through these questions and answers.
What's next on the questions you want to change?
What information will be available digitally versus having to review in person?
Where is this? What page?
It's the next
Four.
question down on the first page, sir.
Before.
All information that can be provided digitally will be if reasonably possible.
The meeting.
Excuse me?
I'm going to honor your request, and I'm going to leave the meeting as you requested. And Mr. Stallings, I know you're so happy. Look at you shaking your head. You're so happy. And you know why I'm doing it? Because I respect those guys out there, and I don't want to compromise them. I'm doing this for them, for this town. You don't care about this town. You only care about Randy Stallings.
That's funny, Mr. Scollins? Is this why you
It's a
left
joke.
Foxborough? Why did you have to leave Foxborough?
Is that, that's out of order.
That's right, that's a matter of public record.
All right, that's out of order from here, though, okay? You want it up and, on the up and up? Let's say what you mean. You mean
We
what you
have
say.
a public servant who the taxpayers pay.
No,
who's
we're not gonna
smirking.
discuss that. We're discussing
Smirking
these
in the
questions and
audience.
answers. That's it.
This is a disruption to the committee,
I
just the
find
same
it-
way
What
you
is your
kick
next
someone
question?
else out,
I
sir.
find
He's
him
here
to be
to
very
intimidate
disruptive.
me.
Oh, my.
And
He's
he's
here to
laughing.
disrupt, and look at him.
All right, what is your next one and what do you want?
Sir, I would like to have him removed.
No, for what reason?
His
For reasons
district-
discussed, the way he's just staring at me, it looks like he wants to kill me.
And he's
Well,
smirking and laughing.
I like and respect Mr. Collins, so as far as I'm concerned, he can stay.
He's smirking and laughing.
And
It's
actually,
very
we'll bring it to a vote.
disrespectful.
Who wants Mr. Collins to leave?
It's
Whoa,
gonna be
whoa,
3 to 2.
time out. For a woman,
Taking a
you
vote.
kick her out and call the police. For a white man,
Oh,
you do a
jeez.
Let's
vote.
give him a seat of honor.
3-2, Mr. Collins stays.
That's
Wait,
not a
wait.
vote.
Okay, let's move
Okay,
on to
good
the
luck.
next
Well,
question.
time out. Could we do a vote for Rita?
Oh, yeah.
Let's vote for Rita to stay.
It will be 3-2.
I move that Rita gets to stay.
Second,
This is embarrassing.
I second
Rita
that.
stay? No, 3-2.
This
The
is
committee
like,
was designed
this is
to
like
be
a-
this way.
What's your next,
Wait,
what's your
what are we
next
voting
one?
on?
Otherwise, we're gonna be here till
And
midnight.
Are you
I've
just
lost
gonna
track
sit
of it.
there with
I
a
don't
little
know.
smirk, go 3-2 every time
Yep.
after every vote? This
All right.
is,
I want the vote for Mr. Scollins put up again.
I move to reconsider Mr. Scollins' vote.
Second.
Go ahead, put it up.
Move to reconsider, second, so
No,
I'm in favor of it.
aye.
3-2.
Okay, so now we have a motion to remove Mr. Scollins from the room.
I second
So
that
we-
motion that Mr.
motion to-
Scollins be removed from the room.
Second.
I
sorry, I
second
motion.
that he be removed so we can get this done.
all right, so 3-2, Mr. Collins, would you, thank you. Okay, what's the next one you want and what changes?
So we were, before the interruption, what information will be available digitally versus having to review in person? And town council, who's not supposed to be involved in this, all information can be provided digitally if reasonably possible. So are there no written records? Are there no faxes? Are there no letters? We know of cases where letters have been sent in.
What do you want to replace it with?
So all information can be provided
I'm good, I'm
digitally,
good. I just want to see how far along we were.
and if written records, faxes, or letters exist, they too shall be provided.
That's a motion?
I second.
That's the motion.
Second.
All those in
Wait,
favor?
wait, so isn't
Opposed?
that what it's saying, that if it's available digitally, they'll give it? Because the question,
Versus having to review in person.
so there may be records that have to be
There may
digital.
be physical hard records.
And it says all information that will be provided digitally will be provided digitally.
For instance, what about evidence? Evidence can't be, not all evidence
So
can
I'm
be
not
looked at
sure what your
digitally.
concern is.
That,
What information will be available digitally versus having to
So if you
review
have
it in person?
a
And
vendor,
they're saying all information that can be provided digitally will be provided digitally, but they're not going to, and I think it's a safe assumption that the rest you'll have to see in person.
the Canton Police would like, he's waving to me to come outside. So I would actually like him to come inside because I would feel more comfortable in here.
Yeah. He just motioned for you to come
Yes, he
outside?
just waved his
Okay.
finger through that window at me. So the Canton Police are disrupting
Yep.
the audit that's overseeing them.
In your opinion.
In your
In
opinion,
my
you
opinion,
guys-
they're actually doing it. They're
You guys are
biased.
safe. You guys are, the well-connected townies are safe. It's only the 75% of the town that pays most of the police force, pays for most of the police salaries that have to worry about.
what is the definition of a townie?
That's irrelevant.
I'm not.
Right.
I'm not a townie.
You guys qualify as well-connected. You're on,
I've
I'd
been a
like it all
carpetbagger
on the
for
record
40
here in
years.
the room if you'd like to speak to me.
Kathleen, this is the
You
first
can
time
speak
I've
to me.
ever had any involvement in any kind of town government. The only other thing that I've been involved in is Little League Baseball. I'm not a townie. Never have been.
We asked them to leave the building and they're gone, so.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that is your,
That was your
Correct.
intimidation from the police you were talking about? Okay. Do you have a motion on this one that you want to change to? I haven't heard it yet.
I've put it out there.
could you say it again, please? For Article 4, correct?
Article 4. Questions on the page that Bob, Mr. Chair, provided were not numbered.
Up there,
So
but up
after
there.
looking
4.
at the whiteboard,
So you're talking about what information will be available digitally versus having to review in person? That's the one we're talking about?
yes.
Okay.
So
And it says all information that can be provided digitally will be if reasonably possible. do you
versus
wanna
having
change it
to
to?
review in person. So all hard records will be reviewed in person.
You're qualifying something that we're not sure that has to be qualified. Again, I would be against changing what town council has put in there. But you could vote. Go ahead, have a motion, and let's see where it goes. Go ahead, make the motion. You don't have to smirk at me.
Smirk? I'm not
I'm not
smirking.
sure.
Okay.
Well, what are you gonna do? You're gonna make a motion or not?
He's reading.
I move that the committee provide information digitally, and if the information is not provided in a digital format, all hard records shall be reviewed.
Is that the motion? In person?
In person.
Yeah. Okay, I second that motion.
So we were trying to get answers from the town council, like how much there is on this, and this is, they just answer it with such a generic answer that we don't even really know what information is really out there. This is why we tried to ask the police, so we just got an obstructionist answer.
In your opinion?
Do you think this satisfies what the
In your
vendor
opinion, you
is
think it's an
looking for?
obstructionist answer?
It-
In your
it
opinion?
obviously
In my
does not-
opinion, I think it's fine.
It obviously does not satisfy what the vendor is looking for,
Well,
and it's going to
in
make
your
it
opinion,
difficult
again, in
for
your
these
opinion.
people.
Let's just assume
These
everything
vendors-
that we each are saying is our opinion, and you could stop interrupting David, please.
You know, you're just
don't
making
need
it
instructions from
near impossible. You're
think you
making me
do.
repeat things. we had a motion on the table, you withdrew it, and then you asked me to do it again. So it's unfortunate, it's just not how the rules of decorum work under, they might work under Robert McCarthy's rules of decorum, but that's not under Robert's rules, which the town is following. The town council already said you didn't follow the rules on the opening of the meeting.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
No, he
We
didn't.
have the
In your
email from-
interpretation,
I have
and
the
most of your
email from-
interpretations have been wrong, and they continue to be wrong. So you have a motion that you voted on this, both of you? Ayes? Those against?
No.
3-2. Next one.
What limitations on access to the facility or personnel will the audit group have? Both police department, town employees, and select board members, current and former, is the question. The answer is all access is legally permissible will be provided if reasonably possible. And we granted unfettered access to the audit. So there should be no limitations, should be the answer. So I move that no limitations be the answer.
You have a second?
Second, yes.
All those in favor? All those opposed?
No.
3-2.
So
Next.
what you all are doing, you're reinventing the scope with these answers.
No.
We provided this in our preamble of the scope, and all three of you are reinventing the wheel by changing.
These answers
scope.
still refer back to the RFP and the scope of services as written. You understand that, don't you? This will be an addendum that'll go into the RFP that is still there. If you're saying it's in the RFP, that still applies. If it's in the scope of services, it still applies. This is just answering questions that were submitted that will go out as an addendum.
But
And it's,
to go on to what the Strim Group says is that, what do we do when there's a case of obstruction? And this, the way these questions are answered is they provide a way for obstruction.
well,
And-
in your opinion. And I disagree.
You know, you don't even let me talk. It's just not fair to be on a committee with the way you're treating individuals like this, Bob. Like, I can't believe you're in charge of a $250 million debt project. Like, no, he's not. He's in charge of the largest debt project, $250 million in this town. And
No, I'm not.
And these
No,
meetings
no, I am
probably
not.
happened in secret.
No, I am not. You have a school building committee, you have a school committee, you have the MSBA involved in it, and you have the architect, the OPM, all of those. I'm not in charge. And for you to say that, you don't know what you're talking about,
In your opinion.
In your opinion.
in my opinion.
So can we just stipulate that everybody who speaks tonight in the committee, it is
Is
their
in
opinion.
their opinion, okay.
It is their opinion. So Bob, you don't have to interrupt us when we're saying something you don't like to
That's
say.
fine.
In your opinion,
I'll
it's not
try to
my
bite my
opinion.
tongue on that from now on. Okay, next one.
I'll let you read this one, Mr. McCarthy.
Why should I read it?
Ask a question about
I don't want to change it.
prior one. Are we allowed to ask questions?
Go ahead.
No, not at this time.
We're not allowed to.
No. It's just strictly the committee.
Well, usually at the
Mr.
select
McCarthy, I
board,
move
they let
that-
people speak.
I move that we allow questions and answers on agenda items
I don't
in
think
this
it's
meeting.
on.
No. No. You have a motion on that?
Yes, I
You have a
motion
motion on that?
that we move to allow questions and answers on agenda items.
I second that motion.
Okay, are those opposed?
In the past, we've allowed them to speak at the
Yeah.
end, correct?
At the end, that's correct.
And then we will still allow
Yeah,
them to speak.
that's correct. So opposed, so 3-2 again.
You voted for them. That's not how you do
Nodded
it.
when
You just
he-
said, these guys.
David, he
Bob, you
said
don't even have
opposed,
to
and I
vote.
nodded and agreed.
You just said opposed.
And I know.
You just recited the vote, you didn't
That's-
ask us.
Is this
What's
how
the next
like you
one?
approve $250 million, Bob?
David,
$250 million?
Florida, David.
Are you kidding me?
I nodded when he said opposed.
Do we have, can we start doing roll call votes?
I thought that's what we were doing.
You voted for everybody, Bob.
What's the next one?
Like, this committee has turned into
What's
a
the next one,
laughing stock.
Dave?
This whole
Dave?
town is a laughing stock. It's a joke, and this is the way the Canton Mafia runs the town.
Yep.
And
Canton
it has
Mafia.
to stop.
Canton Mafia.
The Canton,
What is the Canton Mafia?
Who's in
We're
the,
looking at it
Bob,
right here.
Italian Association.
The people who don't care about democracy. This is an authoritarian way to run a meeting, Bob. It's not democracy.
This is not democracy. I 100%
Are we
agree.
involved in this mafia too? I mean,
I just would like to
You
know,
guys belong to the town club?
I do not.
Do you belong to the town club?
No, I
Yeah.
don't.
You
I
do.
don't, you know what? You assumed I did.
I
and
did
you
assume
said,
that.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
surprised
you
you're
are
not.
correct.
Never
I don't
I-
either. Kathleen?
Have I been in the town club? Yes. I also go to the hockey rink, the football fields.
Next one, Dave, please.
Town club.
Town club.
Okay, we're on to a money question. Does it disqualify a bidder if the bidder believes the project will be completed within 5 months? Does it disqualify a
Not be-
bid
I think it says not, right? I didn't hear the not.
will not be completed in 5 months? Does it disqualify a bid if the bidder is over $200,000? This is a very important one. You just wanted to skate by approving the whole document. So the 5-month period, that was one of those ministerial items that Mr. Scollins added into the contract. That's not something the committee voted on. When you look at our government bylaw modernization committee, they're giving
We-
about 16 months to complete the project. This is probably the quickest procurement that the town has ever done. 5 months is what they're looking for a very comprehensive audit. And town council knew this scope. Randy Scollins knew this scope was very comprehensive, and they went in after the fact and injected the shortest time frame in the history of a town's RFP.
We did discuss having the report available for town meeting. So it didn't come from Mr. Collins, it came from this committee.
No, this was actually sent out via email after we voted on it.
No, we
So
had discussed having this
We did not
report
have
done
the
in
legal,
time for town meeting.
excuse me, sir, I'm trying to speak.
Yeah,
So
and-
we did
and
not
you're
have the
overspeaking me.
legal documentation until after we adjourned our meeting. We didn't have the full document, we just had our scope we voted on. So if you want to learn the details, you should probably go back and watch the tape. But the anticipated milestones, that was added by 2 people with ministerial duties that aren't even supposed to be involved in the project.
I disagree, and you're wrong. But let's move
I'd like to
on.
add that when we spoke about giving a report to town meeting, that, it wasn't clear in my mind that that would be a final report. I mean, that could be, that we wanted a report for town meeting.
It was, because we were afraid how many people would show up. It was a final report that was gonna be done originally in March and pushed to April because we were gonna be behind schedule. So don't tell me the Scollins and the others made the 5 months. We did here.
No, we didn't.
Yes, we did.
What meeting did we do it at? What meeting did we do it at?
I don't know right now, but I'm not,
Because we didn't do it.
what's the next one you wanna go over?
We haven't even finished discussing it.
Yeah,
The
well-
next part of it's the $200,000, and what if it goes over? Just like every other project you procured that you said went under budget, Bob, has gone over. It's gonna go over. The way you added in a financial audit into this, where it was supposed to be policies and procedures, you purposely did that to make it go over so you could sit here and say, well, the petitioners didn't have enough money. They researched this.
While he speaks, please.
No.
So if it goes over, what are we gonna do? We have to have options as a town, as a committee. We don't wanna just deny vendors the option. We're gonna end up with bid protests as a result of this.
It says,
Town could face lawsuits the way you're conducting a meeting, Bob.
I don't think so. What it says is any proposal must meet the specifications of the RFP. What is it you want to change it to? You keep getting off the subject. You talk about it. What is it you want it to say?
Well, we eliminate it to 5 months, and we're saying we're just putting broad language, all proposals must be the specifics of the RFP. I just want the public to be aware of what happened in this case. I know you're not gonna change it. I know you folks aren't gonna change it. So I just wanna let the public know that Randy Scollins and Town Council put a very short time frame in on this on purpose. They knew it was a pretty elaborate scope. They didn't see it was something very small. They put a time frame in that was unattainable. So I know you're gonna vote no, so I'm not even gonna push a motion on it. I just wanna let
One question, please.
the public know.
One question. At the time of the voting for this audit, at the extra town meeting, wasn't it stated that the cost would be 200,000?
That's correct.
I can
That is
answer,
correct.
I can provide
So people
detail on
voted
that.
at the time expecting that their dollars would be going towards this up to $200,000.
That's correct.
Okay, so the part of the reason, I'm sure that people voted yes and others voted no, was based on the cost of the audit. And so that part, I have a little trouble saying it should be changed. I do appreciate your position on the time frame, and I wonder if there's a way of at least bringing this one back to the town to say, and quite frankly, I don't care if it goes longer, so long as they do a good job.
Correct.
But the amount of money stated to the town and the citizens, the taxpayers of the town, was $200,000.
But the finance committee's already said
Right.
they would consider more money if the bid was over.
They-
And we discussed that in this meeting, and Bob sat right
Excuse
there.
me.
Those are the finance committee.
We're only talking up here, please.
So if I can add some perspective on that, the Finance Committee said in November, and the Finance Committee said again in a January meeting, that there would be ways of supplementing this if it turns out the 200,000 was not enough. So that was said multiple times, that there might be ways
So the
to add.
proposal would
and
be
the-
changing it to sending it back to the finance committee for any overage.
Being the
Would that
fact we've
be?
already had at least one company respond to the RFP, how do we weigh that in conjunction to making changes in the RFP?
I'll also add that it wouldn't be the first time that things go over budget. We have numerous examples in Canton's history.
I'm fairly certain, in fact, I'm really certain, if you make changes like that, the entire IRP will be thrown out. It's illegal. So you have to withdraw the entire thing. If that's what you want to do,
Again, I just wanted
He's
to make
just
the public aware of the time frame that was imposed. In regards to the $200,000 funding, there's options the town has. They could add a warrant to the special town meeting coming up within the next month or two. They could, depending on the overage, request Finance Committee reserve fund contingencies. They could request mitigation funds such as other committees have done for other RFP proposals in town. There is methods the town could have if it does go over $200,000. So I just want to make the public aware. I know you people won't probably vote for it, but there is options to the town.
I'm fine to say that it goes to the finance committee for any overage.
if we were to
Approval.
change the RFP right now and change the time and the money, the entire RFP will be null and void. It has to be withdrawn and reissued.
Again, Mr. Chair, I'm just stating the responses for the public because the public is unaware of this. This has all been happening via email, which the public has no idea about.
Okay.
Please sit down. No, not right now. We're in the middle of discussion with the committee up here. Please sit down. You will not be recognized.
I'll also add that when people brought forth this petition, they were focused on adherence to policies and procedures. That was the part that was missing. We have fabulous policies and procedures. We wanted to talk about, we wanted an independent audit that would look at compliance to policies and procedures, because it seemed to many of the taxpayers in town that that is sometimes where we fall flat with the red Solo cups. There's no policy and procedure in the world that says bring a leaf blower to a murder scene. So what happened for the people watching at home or for the audience is that many things got added in, so it's now like a full financial audit, which things got added beyond the compliance aspect.
Kathy, what is it about the snow blower and the solo?
Excuse me, sir, my name is not Kathy.
Ms. Holly,
It's Kathleen.
Ms. Holly, the solo cup and the snow blower, what is it about that? It keeps coming up at these meetings.
It made us a national laughingstock.
How?
Then if I have to explain that, then let's just move on.
No, please do, because quite frankly, you could also be looked as ingenious to collect evidence that was ready to melt away.
In beer cups. the blood of a fallen police officer collected in beer cups.
How is that a problem? It was
Because they're not
collected.
sterile, because they don't have a top, because they were put in a used
Why
Stop
does it
and
have to
Shop.
be
I'm not,
sterile?
excuse me, sir, I'm still speaking, you can,
Okay.
excuse me if I speak while you're interrupting me. They were put in a used Stop and Shop bag that could have had like a ham juice in it, or roast beef juice in it. This is, I don't know why that's not understandable.
Because I'm not sure why it had to be sterile, number one. It's
You don't know why
DNA.
evidence would have to be collected in sterile containers?
It doesn't have to be,
Okay.
because you're not getting a culture off of it, you're collecting DNA. And, you know, if it is roast beef, they'll tell the difference between a cow and a human.
Okay,
They had a tough time doing that between a human hair and a dog hair on the back of a vehicle. But back to what we're discussing here, if I may. The fee schedule. So, Mr. Chair, I would like you to explain number 5 of the RFP, payment schedule and fee explanation in regarding the negotiation of the fee, so that the community can understand how the fee negotiation, as described by town council, can work.
If we could come in less than 200,000, we could do that. If we're over 200,000, we can't sign a contract.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry for speaking out of the order here. I will leave after I you're calling me to. But in the previous meeting, you mentioned that the process for the RFP, you'll get the proposals, you'll review all the proposals, you'll narrow them down to your top 3 or whatever. Then once you pick those, or once you finalize somewhere in that process, then you look at the bids. If you limit down to however many you have, and then open the bids and they're all over 200,000, does the whole thing fall apart?
Yep.
I think that's
Can I
not.
also
We
just
cannot,
ask
we
why
cannot,
that
please,
question
please,
was
I'll answer this question,
Yeah.
but it's staying up here, please.
why are you allowing questions from men and not from women?
Interruption,
The two women, you immediately shut them down.
Why are men allowed to speak and women are not?
I'm amazed by that, because when I stood up, I was immediately told to stop talking.
Yeah.
And that went a completely different way. I'm
Yeah.
just pointing that out.
Same with Randy Scollins.
Yep.
I'm just pointing it out as an observation. It's-
Mr. Murphy, after this, please leave.
It's a very good observation.
What was the,
Interrupting, but could I hear the answer first, actually?
what was the question?
So I'm trying to.
So, time,
And you'll get an
all right,
answer.
I
Call me
know,
later.
I will get into that question because,
Which ones are important that you think you still want to change? Do you have any that you think,
so back into Mr. Murphy's question, you know, I think he should maybe even stay for this.
no,
He did reference at 2 prior meetings that we were using chapter 149, the designer statute,
No,
which is used for public buildings, or on the TV, on public record, you could go back and look at them, where we couldn't go back and look at the price of the second one if we opened the first one. That was completely false information.
that's
We
not what I said.
gave the
That's
committee
not
the
what I
That is what he
said,
said.
and I've been doing this a long
misinformation,
time.
And you told us we had to shortlist it to 3. If we have 30 people that meet our highly advantageous criteria, we don't shortlist them. We have to interview all of them. And we open up all of the prices. We're not just gonna open up one price and not go back. And then you didn't give us the right procedures, Bob.
Yes, I did.
It's
You didn't
all
li-
on
You got
video.
the right procedures in November at the FinCom.
Excuse me,
I-
sir,
I've
I'm
given them
still
the
trying to
number of
speak here.
times since then.
So-
You don't listen.
So I sent this to you in an email. You couldn't even answer it yourself. You
Yeah, I
had to
was-
send it to Randy Scollins. Randy Scollins had to interpret what you meant to say and said, yeah, Bob is referencing the designer statute, but that's not at play here. We're referencing chapter 30B. So you don't even know the right procurement rules on this type of procurement. And you advise the committee and the public and potential vendors in the wrong way.
Okay, you're wrong, but let's move
And
on.
it's all
Which
on
other
video
ones
for
of these
everyone to
do you
look at.
still want to try to change?
Well, you know, I
You say you're not
obviously-
going to make a motion on that one, so which ones are you going to make a motion on, and what are you going to want to change it to?
Okay, so
Bob, since this is a public meeting, we can publicly discuss the questions and answers. And it may be very educational for people watching who may want to know more about the process. So I applaud.
I'm asking him to see which one is the next one he wants to review and what he wants to change it to. I don't understand what was wrong with that, but never mind. Go ahead, Dave. Which is the next one? I've lost track of where
And
you
just
are.
to go on to the next one in regards to the timeline, you know, this vendor, as well as another vendor, came back and said a minimum of 12 months is more realistic. And I just want to show you that where town council and Randy Scollins are putting in 5 months, and multiple vendors are coming back and saying 12 months, we have a problem with the way we procure things in this town. We're not doing it the right way. And we're not allowing vendors enough time. We are in certain procurements, but we're not allowing it in this procurement, which raises a red flag. So,
May I have the floor, please?
Go ahead, what is it?
Thank you. So commonly, if you know something's gonna fail, you're already getting the feedback, the time frame's gonna be too short for the scope. The money's not gonna cover any good company, so why not just kick it back now, make the changes, then send it back out? Why are we wasting more time to send something out that we know is gonna get kicked back? It makes no sense. Makes no sense. The select board also offered their mitigation funds to cover any overages that we needed. It's on film. We can pull for that. Red Solo cups being an issue, we have other police stations publicly mocking us on their media. Publicly mocking us. It's an embarrassment, and it's not safe. So you making a big issue and challenging him, you're an embarrassment, and you're not safe for this town right now either. Conduct this as a meeting that is to conduct business, to get the right turnaround. Not the little backdoor turnaround that the select board is really hoping. Not run the clock out so Helena Rafferty doesn't have to answer her for her golden parachute. Do it the right way. Stop fighting the company, like the crowd and the public, and collaborate. You started to, and then you stopped again. That's why I'm here. I backed off for how long? Because you were collaborating. Tonight, you're off the kilter tonight. It's all over every media station. It's an embarrassment the way that you conducted this meeting, spoke to women and to men, but mostly to the women of our community, and it's across the board. Thank you for the time.
We have one bid, it's already in.
Wait. No. Please speak. You had been asking to speak as well.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that.
My question was really practical about a particular provision that had been up there. So, I mean, do you want to go, is it okay to go back to it?
Sure.
yes.
You want to make a point? Yes.
I mean, my question is when you were debating about the all access that it is legally permissible will be provided if reasonably possible right at the bottom of the screen. My question originally was, I'd imagine that that will practically maybe cause issues as maybe an auditor is coming in and wants to see something that the police maybe, for whatever reason, it might be practical, it might be, you know, something, I don't know, nefarious, I have no idea, but there might be a reason why they don't want that to happen. My question was simply where it says provided if reasonably possible, who's making the determination what would be reasonably possible? Because I could see based on the debate that's happening today that some people would think something would be reasonably possible and other people would think something wouldn't be reasonably possible. So my question was simply, who will determine that? And if you maybe could just foresee some of the issues that are going to arise, you could say something like, all information, all access that is legally permissible will be provided if reasonably possible, with debates about the reasonable possibility to be determined by, and then provide like who in the moment is going to make that decision. And so it was really just a practical issue on that particular provision that I didn't know if it would be helpful to start maybe fleshing some of that out now versus having to, I would imagine, potentially put an auditor in a very difficult position where they don't really now know what to do and potentially even put police officers in a difficult position. And so I thought maybe it'd be practical for the committee to work through that question and collaborate on how that might work in the future.
And
It
thank
doesn't
you for
look
that.
like that's something that's going to be possible given the tone of the meeting, but I was hoping that might have been possible.
And that's a great comment, Mr. Chair. One of our vendors they didn't really submit questions, they submitted feedback and elected not to move forward with submitting a bid based on a number of reasons, but one of the items they outlined is the access to records and establishing a mechanism for compliance. And what they ultimately went on to say is, we need an oversight committee when critical documents, data, and information is obstructed or delayed. And we obviously know that's probably going to happen just based on the way the committee has developed. So there's going to be an oversight committee will have to be established to help enforce this. Who knows, there could be lawsuits to block it.
The language of the discussion, if instead of kind of this combative thing, if we say, okay, we all anticipate that there are going to be these challenges, so how, when those happen, can we help the people that are in those positions? How can we help them problem solve in those moments? So maybe the tone of the meeting can shift from, because what I'm seeing, again, just a very peaceful observation, is that maybe this is just useless if every time it's going to kind of be predetermined where everyone is on the question. But maybe a more useful thing would be if we talk about if this is going to go forward in some capacity, which I think it is, for whatever amount of money, and I understand, I don't know the law, but I assume that you're correct on, it could be possible that this can't change now, maybe it's set in stone, maybe the finance committee can change it, I don't know, but let's assume it goes forward. Can we get, who else can problem solve but you? And so I guess I'm at a loss, if you all can't do it, then who's gonna do it? And so now we're putting our police officers in, or I don't know, maybe people that work at the police station, I don't even know who we're putting in the kind of line of fire here to have to make those decisions. It feels like maybe we could help them, because it sounds like there will be an audit in some capacity, right?
And that's a great point you make. So this other consultant does go on to recommend an independent process for reporting criminal activity, and they recommended appointing a special prosecutor with full investigative and prosecutorial authority based on the federal prosecutor model.
You know, David, I don't even think that's legally possible. I think the only person that can either hire or appoint a special prosecutor is the Attorney General of the Commonwealth or any district attorney of the Commonwealth. I don't think any private entity, any municipality, any police department can hire a special prosecutor. I don't think that's legal.
Well, the question comes down to, if I could, are we going to continue editing these, or do you want to go to the point where we withdraw the entire RFP at this point?
Start over, but.
You know, I don't want to really go through this process again at the moment. We're 10 days away from final bids. Let's wait and see what happens. We don't know what's going to come in. We don't know what's in the envelopes. We know we have one bid that came in. Bob told me yesterday at the middle school meeting that we weren't going to use that bid because the vendor
No,
sent
I did not say that,
Excuse me,
David.
sir, I'm still trying to talk. Because they sent the pricing in with the proposal, they immediately emailed Bob, said, we're sorry we did this, don't open the letter. We're going to send a new letter. And I was trying to work with Bob through email today on how to get that letter, return the letter back to that vendor so we couldn't violate the procurement in case that's a really good qualified bidder. And Bob was refusing to even help get this letter back. He wanted the vendor to send the FedEx pickup driver. I advised him just put refused on the envelope, send it back, get rid of it, identify the tracking number, shred it or do something. Ask the vendor to send a return label and just get that one that's incorrect back, and we didn't get a response from him. You know, he just wanted the vendor to send the FedEx truck to do a pickup like you would on a large purchase on a washer or dryer that you bought online. When the FedEx driver is coming to this location every day, we could have easily wrote refused on it and handed it to him, and it would have been problem solved.
What you just said is absolutely wrong. I did
course
not
it
say
is.
last night that I was going to refuse them and throw
Today.
them out. What I said was, I got another email from them stating that they were sending the new one with 2 price proposals. I did say, send me the information so we can send this back. In between that time, I had a number of emails, plus I'm working, and you think I'm gonna answer to you in between all of this to keep you informed. Well, I'm not. In between that time, I did have them send a return envelope. The envelope has been affixed to it, and it has been returned as of this afternoon.
And
So
that
we
points out
should
another
have the new
problem.
one in, probably, if it's not in today, by tomorrow. So that's already been done, but not the way you're saying it. You misquoted me.
did
Exactly
not.
what I said last night, and that's not what I said.
So
And
you're-
I'm taking a little umbrage at your memory because it's failing badly. I did not say that.
That's not true, sir. So you just provided an update, which you obviously said you didn't do because you were so busy. You made it a point to hire a secretary to do some of these duties. We're not even getting the emails that are going into the audit email address. They're just going to you, and I don't know if they're going to anyone else, but we're getting a small portion of them. I
Any-
know of
any
some
email that goes
emails
to the-
that are not being forwarded, Bob.
Any
I don't-
email that goes to the
Aware of emails that you're
independent
not forwarding
email
to the committee.
is automatically sent out to all four of you.
That's
On
not
every
true.
one that I've got. Every single
That's
one.
not, and you just said you're
No.
too busy to even do it.
No, I
You
said
just
on
said
that
that.
particular one, because that,
You said
you know,
you're too
you
busy to
make it
even
up
do
as you go.
I'm
not-
just going off of
I'm-
your own
I'm-
words, Bob.
I'm done trying to argue with you.
May we continue, please?
Yes. You say in 10 days. What else do you want to change on these before we? You say you don't want to withdraw the RP. You want to continue.
I never moved to withdraw the offer. Do we have a motion?
No,
on
we
the
don't have a
table?
motion, but
I don't,
that was a suggestion. I didn't know if that's something that you wanted to do. And you said, no, it's coming in on the 30th, let's proceed. Is that, Kathleen, is that still your position?
Is there a motion about this?
No,
No?
there was
No,
not.
it's a-
Then let's
That was
move on.
just a statement.
Okay.
I don't think we,
Could we just finish up here, please, without interruptions? I don't know myself, so if we could get moving on the questions and answers, then we could try to get this thing resolved.
and just to point out, one of the questions was the scope is ambiguous. You know, we tried to include specific details of specific cases, and we were precluded from including those specific details in an effort because it seems like you wanted to create an overly broad scope and said we couldn't do that. There's an ongoing investigation. There's other issues with certain cases out there. And there's other questions that vendors are asking about certain cases, and we couldn't put them in that scope. So we would have had a more well-defined scope that would have helped to keep the cost down if we were able to add some of these specifics into the scope. Just moving down, I think the next one, a different vendor has submitted some questions in regards to the volume of evidence pieces that's stored in Canton. There's under 2,000 pieces. Will the town police department be contracting with any other firms for a smaller subset of tasks?
I think the next one up.
Or
Yeah, yeah. I think there.
I think it's a little bit below the 200,000 range.
So aside from the company that didn't ask any questions, that just gave concerns, these are in the order in which Mr. McCarthy gave.
Okay, so I think he emailed something different to you than
Under
what he sent to
2,000
the
pieces.
committee, which I don't know why that happened.
You were on the same email that all went out at the same time to the independent and then all BCC to the five of us. So nothing is different. Nobody got anything different.
Yes, we have an evidence audit annually in October from an outside independent contractor. I have no objections to that answer. Next was the 2,000 pieces. Well, there have been limited disciplinary actions. How many internal investigations have been conducted over the last 5 years? Less than 25. We typically have 3 to 4 complaints a year. This has obviously increased since 2003.
23.
2023. I believe that's what I said. I'm sorry if I misspoke. And the next question goes on, what kinds of
Could I just ask a question? What does it mean when it says this has obviously increased since 2023? What is the obviously referring to? Do we know?
Disciplinary actions or investigations, I would assume, but
Why
I'm
is it
not privy to that.
I wonder why it's obvious that they've increased.
May have something to do with the time frame of everything that's been going on.
The citizens haven't heard of an obvious increase in disciplinary actions. I mean, even Kevin Albert, nothing can be revealed, so I don't know why it's obvious. Perhaps it is to the town council, who may have written this answer, but it's not obvious to the people who haven't been told.
I wasn't aware of it.
Yeah, but it's good to know that apparently it has increased since 2023. That's, speaking as a taxpayer who pays for the police department, transparency is good. It's a little bit of transparency.
And that's, again, another ambiguous answer. We don't know the answer of how many complaints is what the vendor is asking for in this case. So they can't really make a proper determination on pricing for that if they just get obvious increase. If it's 1 year, 2023, 24, we should have a hard number on that. If it was 3 to 4 in the prior year, are we looking at 10, 20, 50, 100? Like, we just don't know. It's an ambiguous answer.
It said
In
in the
defining
last
costs.
5 years, and it says less than 25. I'm not sure that's that ambiguous. So that would come out to possibly almost 5 a year.
But after 23, we don't know how many there is. So there's 3 to 4.
But it
complaints.
says in the last 5 years, so it would include after 23. Last 5 years would take it up to the present date. You start the clock at the present time and go backwards.
Yeah, 4 times 5 is 20, so what's the obvious increase? Something enlighten me, because I don't get.
I didn't even know about
I don't think there's that many post-commission.
What I think,
Complaints.
and I have no inside information, but I think my logical assumption is that the increase since 2023, I think probably the Canton Police Department has gotten inundated with phone calls from people critiquing and complaining about the 2 investigations that we're talking about. I could be wrong, but I think that's probably what we're talking about.
What kinds of electronic systems or records does, we're not going to get an answer for that. We just don't know the answer.
Could we move it up? Is that further down the page?
That scroll down a
Scroll
little
down.
bit, please.
This one, below that is the concerns of the questions. Which question?
Number 3.
Can you go back up? Yeah, there we go.
Were you going to another question, David?
Are you going to the next one?
Yes.
Okay, so if you could just scroll up a little bit.
The next one is the Western concerns, it's at the bottom. I can find, if you give me, what was the beginning of the question, I'll find it.
Can we just do the
I
back?
believe it was LF4A was the name of the vendor. What kinds of electronic systems of records does the department use to manage police reports, and then it goes on to paraphrase, manage misconduct. And during their answer, it says, we do not use it for IAs, which I believe means internal investigations. So internal affairs, either one. But we just don't know where that auditor is going to be able to get that access from.
So like, it sounds like the question is, so what is used for internal affairs?
Yeah, is it a hard copy? Is it handwritten? Is it electronic? These are,
Mine is it used for, so they can erase it.
Or they don't,
All the other reports are electronic.
So is your question, why don't they include what, I mean, it should say we
Well-
use IMC for this, and then for IAs, we use this other.
Well, I'm just pointing out the obvious to these questions and answers that are just ambiguous,
Yeah.
that we're not getting answers to from the people with the ministerial duties. And, you know, they should have been, these people are collectively being paid about $1 million a year, and they should have provided more in-depth answers than
Yes,
that.
better answers. My concern is that vague answers that give wiggle room out is going to convey that you're going to run into roadblocks. Whether that was meant to convey that or not, that would be one reading of it.
Those four people make $1 million, $250,000 a year each.
Well, I think town council is probably on the higher end of that range, but it's very close to
You're not
it.
sure?
It's,
Just go to govsalaries.com and look up their name.
Okay, I have no interest, but that's just, it sounds like more.
well, we'll call it the $500,000 to $1 million range. Are there existing relevant strategic plans for public safety? And then it goes on, we do not have relevant strategic plans in place. So maybe the select board should make a recommendation to have the police get a strategic plan in place for public safety.
I could agree with it, but aren't we here just to determine whether we're going to say yes or no to the questions as it's written?
Well, I'm just reading out some of the questions. I know that the votes aren't there, so I just want people to know a little bit about the process and
Okay.
what we're experiencing.
I would just want to say, Dave, I appreciate it because I want to fully understand something before I vote on it. I'm sure we would all agree on that. We want to fully know what we're voting on. And this is very helpful so that we can make an informed vote, and it also informs the public.
Does the police department have standard operating procedures beyond the policies referenced in scope 1? We have policies and procedures. We're accredited through MPAC, but not CALA. CALA is what all of our policies and procedures are written on.
That's not correct.
I don't believe so.
No, that's not correct.
I have public records requested them all, and they're all based off of CALA standards. Vast majority of them are.
But no, we're vast majority, not all. In other words, they have gone, most police departments have gone away from CALA because it's an international organization in terms of accreditation. And a lot of the policies and procedures that you do see on the MPAC have been integrated with CALA just in order to maintain cohesiveness, but eliminating issues that are not pertinent to the states because they do also certify international police departments. So there could be, they look very similar.
I'd be happy to provide you
Thank you.
a list of them if you'd like, but if all the police departments are moving away from them, then I don't know why they are listed in our current policies and procedures. That seems to be a variance there that needs to be corrected. In the background section of the RFP, you know, recent events involving unfortunate and untimely deaths of residents spark concerns regarding how the department operates and its response to such events. But more generally, how the department operates every day in police matters. Are there any other deaths or incidents that have given rise to concern and need for engagement for the period contemplated within the scope of work? If yes, please clarify. And the answer we got is a federal investigation has been opened regarding the death of a second resident, Sandra Birchmore. So there's another death. His name is Craig Casey in 2018, which was found not too far off from a select board member's house, right off of Meadows Ave in Pleasant Street. And that one, you read the news reports on it, and it doesn't look like that one was handled right. If you Google some, you'll find unattended dead bodies on I-95 in Canton, just thrown on the highway. It seems like this is the place to dispose of bodies. So there's more than just Sandra Birchmore out there.
There's 9 since 2018.
So I think I would move to amend that. I know of at least 4 of them, but, you're saying there's 9. To amend that there's more than just Sandra Birchmore. I think they're getting at the Karen Reed trial, the John O'Keefe theft in here, but there's other cases, and the answer we were given is not, the answer that it should be.
Yeah, Craig Casey's name should be added. That was the time that the police missed the body on the lawn, and they had to be called back after the sun rose by a resident. It was a man's body on a front lawn, and our now police chief, then deputy police chief, was quoted in 4 newspaper articles saying while we wish we had found him earlier, it wouldn't have made any difference, but he was found alive, barely, and perhaps one would think that getting EMT assistance an hour and change earlier might have made a difference. And many residents are concerned about Craig Casey's death as well in December of 2018. So that's at least one other that should be added, and there are others.
So I would make a motion to add Karen Reed, Craig Casey, Sandra Birchmore.
I think you meant John O'Keefe.
Excuse me, thank you, yes. God bless his soul. John O'Keefe, Craig Casey, Sandra Birchmore, her unborn baby, and other unattended bodies on 95.
His name was Joey Brancato.
Suicide by gun in the old airport.
Yeah, what was his name? So Joey Brancato was the body found by the side of the road. Hold on.
Do you want to go through the list of all
Bodies? Yeah.
For me, Kathleen, please?
Yeah.
Move the motion.
So Joey Brancato, 21-year-old, that was March of 2018, body found by the side of the road. I believe it was 95, off of 95. I'm going by memory, but it was a road off of 95. In August of 2018, wait a second. There was another that was ruled a drowning, and it may have been, but residents have lost confidence. Is pretty much the. I tell you what, can we? There are other names to be added. I don't want to misspeak. So on this, extremely important matter.
Could we change it to, yes, there's under a dozen that we know of, and once interviews come up, we could, with this vendor, if they happen to hit all the marks on the response, then, we could go more into depth on the interview on process on this. So I move to
What, you're talking about going through a process? I mean, this has to go out. I'm not sure what you're trying to get at.
We're just looking to add more than Sandra Birchmore.
And her unborn baby, who died in Canton, who murdered in Canton.
Sandra Birchmore and and another. We'll just keep it simple for them. We'll add another 4.
There were at least 2 other cases that were ruled
Another
as
4.
There were at least 2 other cases that were ruled as suicide that many residents now feel a lack of confidence in that, given what happened to Sandra and her baby in their Canton murder that was initially ruled a suicide.
Are you also going to fix the spelling of her name?
Yeah.
It says Sarah
It's appropriate. Change the name.
Bob, the name is incorrect on the document. Is that something that you think you would get changed?
We don't have enough information to say, are they under Canton? Is it in litigation? Is it a federal investigation? Is it under the district attorney?
Can I just ask you,
Throwing all these names in right now,
Bob, would you, even just the one name that's listed, presently says Sarah Birchmore?
Oh, it should be changed, I agree with you.
Okay, Can we?
Change it to
Can we
Sandra.
take a vote to be sure that town resident, Canton town resident Sandra Birchmore, her name was not Sarah Birchmore?
Yep.
It was Sandra. Bob, do you
Appropriate.
think that you could make a motion right now to have her name changed on that document?
if that's a typo, that should be automatic.
Could you make a
All in
change?
favor?
Could you make the
Yeah.
motion,
Make a
Bob?
motion, please, to correct her
I
name.
make a motion to correct the name to her correct name,
Change
Sandra
it from
Birchmore.
Sarah to Sandra?
That's her name,
Sandra.
Bob.
Yes.
Yeah,
To
that's
Sandra,
what I just
right.
said. That's confirmed. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 5-0.
Thank you, Bob.
I'm sorry, who seconded?
Who seconded the motion? We didn't have a second.
I did.
All of us.
Pick one.
Also, can I just take 1 minute? Because I feel like this is really the time, and I've been standing here for a really long time. And I think that look that I just saw on the chair of the police audit's face is the moment where I can't sit down any longer. Her name's incorrect in this document. She was a Canton resident. She was pregnant. She was murdered in this town. And watching a town vote in a democratic way to audit the police, whatever that may be, wherever I might have fallen on that vote, actually doesn't matter. Because what I'm seeing here is a committee that was formed as a result of that vote not behave in a way that I think the majority of people wanted it to behave. So I understand the different issues on there, and in fact, there may have been things that I've agreed with one side over the other, but the fact that a town voted for a committee to create an audit, and that has now looks like this, it's not what I voted for. I voted for a collaborative committee to work on this. And I'm not saying you need to agree on every detail, but when a woman who was murdered, his name is incorrect in a document that you're all looking at, to watch that smug look on your face, Bob, and laugh after that correction was made, it gets me to my core to a point that it's hard to even speak. So I just want to be sure that we understand that changing her name to be correct and adding the fact that she was pregnant is something that we can at least agree on.
Just a reminder, this document was reviewed by Town Council, Mr. Scollins, and the Chief of Police. So, move to amend the question to add the unborn baby. I'm not sure if we know if the baby has a name, or at least I don't know off the top of my head. Craig Casey and John O'Keefe.
Second.
Little discussion. When
Sure.
John O'Keefe, this is the whole impetus of this. This was, are there anyone else? I mean, it's pretty obvious that this was what.
Well, we don't list that in the document once, so they're asking if there's anyone else. We're providing, we don't want to be ambiguous. We didn't write anyone's name in the document. We were precluded from doing it. So we should include it. And the fact that you don't want to include it is troubling.
Well, John O'Keefe is fine, but the other one, quite frankly, have no comment on because unfortunately, I'm not aware of it.
Nor am I.
And that's a problem just to add it. So I can see your point with John O'Keefe and certainly with the unborn baby. I think that is appropriate. But short of that, the other cases, I just can't say I'm going to do it because I'm not aware. And
Well, just because you're uninformed about it, we're informing you now that there is another
But I don't
case.
know your sources and what's going behind it, so
You
I'm
can
sorry,
look at-
David, but beyond,
Pull out your phone,
when I knew about the Sarah Birchmore case,
pull out your phone and Google, pull out your phone right now and Google
Didn't
Craig Casey,
say-
or perhaps
so the
Snap can pull
issue
up
was that she committed
the Canton
suicide.
Citizen article.
So we're gonna,
And it was,
I'm
you
more-
you said
as I
Sarah
said-
again, it was Sandra.
Sandra,
And I think the problem is we don't know. Our public is never informed of what's
I don't know
happening in
anything
our
about
town.
the case beyond the name you just mentioned. So from the standpoint, John O'Keefe and certainly the baby, fine with that.
It's unfortunate that you don't want to add other victims of murders in this town.
I am
And
hoping that it opens it
I don't
up
know
that
why
all of
you're
them,
having
but I don't know
opposition
who- because I
toward
don't
it.
know who these people are.
It doesn't matter, you don't know
Okay.
who any, you don't know who,
David, are you saying, and I
The
I don't
unborn
I don't
baby
know
is- you
anything
don't
about
know
this
who-
individual. Are you saying he was murdered?
We don't know.
I don't know.
Well, you know,
That's
and
an
unfortunately,
investigation.
and I,
well, it doesn't say a murder, it says deaths and incidents that have given rise to concern,
Concern.
is what this vendor is asking. And it's our job to provide appropriate answers, not just sweep it under the rug. These are things of concern that need to be addressed.
So what are the names?
John O'Keefe, Craig Casey, Sandra Birchmore, and the unborn baby.
While I don't know who they are, I will say that if they're the concerns of other citizens,
I have no problem.
I
with
don't
it
have
either.
a problem with it.
You know,
But-
to get back to the, and Kathleen, you referenced a body left on the side of the road in 95. First of all, I'm assuming State Highway, it was not a Canton investigation. It was no doubt a state police investigation. And I can tell you from my experience over the years, having done a considerable amount of highway patrol earlier in my career, that the route from Boston to Providence was used, and unfortunately still is to this day, as a dumping ground from somebody either killed in Boston or Providence, and the perpetrators traversing the state highway. And in spite of the fact that that body might have been found in Canton, I don't think it's a Canton, I'm not even sure of which body you're referencing, because unfortunately, that happens too frequently, but.
The fact that we're debating dead bodies and people's names is very troubling. And I don't understand the opposition to it.
David, we don't have any opposition.
We didn't have
So
the
we have the-
opposition.
I'm telling you, we don't
They're
have.
We
any
agreeing-
just
opposition.
agreed
agreeing
to the
to the
four
main
names.
ones.
He's only pointing out, as you have articulated your point of view, that a lot of the names or bodies that you have mentioned may have nothing to do with Canton. They just happen to drop them on the highway in the town of Canton, but it's a state investigation.
Three names that he mentioned.
We're all in the town.
And I just said, and we said we don't,
We
And-
said we
and
don't
the
have any
Canton
problem
Police
with
are the
them. We
first
don't
responders.
we're
have
gonna
any
go
problem
through this
with them.
again, please.
Okay.
We're discussing, and we said we don't have a problem with it. Now,
Finally, you said you didn't have a problem for the last 10 minutes.
sir,
You've been saying
so
you
we
have a
haven't
problem with
gone,
it.
no, we're going through the process. Now, several people have already been forced to leave.
I'm not going anywhere.
Oh, wait a second. No, I don't want members of the committee threatening to throw people out.
I'm
It's
not.
bad enough that the chairman does
I am
that.
pointing out, so I'm trying to get this done. Several people have been forced to
You
leave.
don't have the authority to
I'm
make
not going to
anybody
make-
leave. Well, you seem to think that you
No,
have the authority. Yeah.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
I'll add that there was a woman who was found in the park across from Dunkin' Donuts on Neponset Street. What year was that? And I forget her name. That she supposedly shot herself several times in a suicide. And now Canton residents say, oh, women
What's her
don't
name?
tend, I can't, what, doesn't,
Do we have a name? So we'll add her to the list.
yeah. But the point being,
No,
we're seeking.
we'll add her to the
We're
list. if
seeking
we
to
can get the
restore
name.
trust.
Sure.
But women don't tend to kill themselves violently, they tend to overdose.
That is true. Statistically, you're absolutely correct.
And if you are going to kill yourself with a gun, one of the reports said that she had shot herself several times. Yeah, no, that's not how you kill yourself.
So we can add that, and let's just get it, for transparency, let's get all the names out there. And are there any others? Because this is our only opportunity.
Why is this our only opportunity?
Well, because we're going through the process now.
Yeah, I
To
don't
add to
think,
this, the
Well, the
list.
vendors need the answers.
right,
soon.
but I don't think that
Responses are
would
due in
limit,
10
that wouldn't
days.
limit them to that. If they find like, oh, and here's another, you know, that they could certainly, according,
So what are the lists now?
Do you want to,
I don't have the name of
List.
that woman.
Miss Jane Doe that died in the Fernham Pond State Park in 2019 by a parent.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so those all can be added? I'm fine with it.
Can you restate the motion, including, the original motion only included 3 extra days?
John O'Keefe, Craig Casey, Sandra Birchmore's unborn baby.
And the Jane Doe who was found dead in the park on Neponset Street and
And the Dunkin' Donuts,
across from the Dunkin' Donuts.
across from the Dunkin', so that was the same case?
Yeah,
Okay, that was the gunshot supposedly suicide.
yeah.
Allison, can you get me those names first thing in the morning? Change? Okay. If it's voted.
Off
So
of
we do
Neponset
have a
Street.
motion and second,
Across from
right?
Dunkin' Donuts. It has the long name. The old airport, the old Canton Airport.
At the state park,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a bird sanctuary now.
get the name of it.
That was 2019?
19, okay.
In March of 2018 was the body on the side of the road.
That, I don't,
I don't know if we were putting.
yeah, I'm not sure we're adding him. It turns out he was, you know, from Lynn, I think they,
Okay, I'll just.
I don't know. Yeah, yeah.
So to confirm, we have Sandra Birchmore's unborn child, Craig Casey, John O'Keefe, and Jane Doe. And 8. Is that correct?
There are public records requests out that we will be able to get her name, but we don't have it now.
Have we voted this yet?
All right,
It's
so,
been moved and seconded.
yep,
All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Next one?
Can you please provide a detailed number of investigations that have occurred or in the process currently related to the death of residents in the RFP and their status? Please include the name. Please include the time period of those cases since the dates reporting now through. So I think we're back to at least 2018. And then the answer referenced the 2 deaths are either in litigation or being investigated by outside agencies. The town does not have access to additional information. So we obviously pointed out 4 cases and we went back to 2018. So we ended up with an answer from the town that didn't really satisfy the vendor's question. So 2018, I move that we include 2018 to current.
Which one?
But,
are we looking
hold on
at?
a minute,
Which
because
one are we
I believe
looking
our RFP goes back
yeah, it goes, we cited it.
25 years on
at?
this.
Yeah, so going back 25 years.
Please
Doesn't
excuse
that
me.
cover it?
25 years to review.
Right,
would be the
isn't that
answer on
what
that
we
one.
agreed upon? I thought that was for,
I-
not on everything, but.
But we don't have a detailed number of them within that 25 years. You know, what we were provided by Town Council Randy Scollins and the chief was 2 deaths. We just don't know the number.
but they're
So we
allowed
can't
to-
rely on 2 deaths that are being provided by these individuals. It's just not factually correct.
Could it, I mean, it's, if they took out the and just said 2 deaths are either in litigation or being investigated by outside agencies, that would make that it would make it seem less like they're just limiting it to that. What do you think?
Take out the,
Because in the prior question we answered, we gave the names.
well, I think it's important, if we get the answer of these 4 individuals that we just specified, that's gonna probably give the town some comfort in healing and help control the cost to some degree.
Take then, remove, as Ms. Holly said, change capitalize to
Yeah.
and remove the.
I tell you, one death that is not currently being litigated is the baby of Sandra Birchmore. The feds have not decided as to whether to charge him yet for that particular crime. They very well might, but that would not be included in the number 2.
So I make a motion that strike the and capitalize the T of the 2, and that.
Do what?
The strike in that number 2 up on the screen. If you strike under the answer, strike the, and just say 2 deaths are either in litigation or being investigated, and the town does not have access to additional information.
Can I just ask a quick question? In a way, does it even matter? Because this is why I'm thinking, but I might be not understanding this. If the audit discovers other things that don't match this, then isn't that kind of the point? So in a way, does this debate even matter? But so could you make, right, so could you make language that says it's our understanding based on what we know? Because then the point is, if we don't know it and it ends up being something that, and maybe I'm missing something, but do you know what I'm trying to say? That in a way, the point is, if we don't know.
Oh, you're saying instead of saying there's 2 or there's 4, say.
We don't even have to debate about it.
Yes.
The point is based on what we know, there's 2 or more, or.
But I think the auditors are looking for a more specific number so they can give you a better price.
So do you want to say something like at least 2 deaths? Because the FBI could be investigating more than we.
Could we move on from that with something that practical, to say at least 2?
Yeah.
Just because, again, I think the essence of it is if the public doesn't have
Right. How do
full
we-
information, or if the auditors were to find something that is beyond what they were even told, then that's kind of the whole point anyway, so maybe we can just move on? I don't know, maybe that's off base, but I just didn't know if that might get us past this issue.
I think there is a simple solution. Maybe we could move on quickly.
Well, they're looking for a time frame as well, so since 2018, we know of at least 4.
Yeah.
Are they open investigations?
As we just
Are they
described,
open cases?
Open cases. What,
Please of those open cases since date of incident and reporting through now.
It's really a 2-part question.
yeah.
But that's in the question.
Are in process currently.
No, currently in process. So
Right,
are
that-
there more than 2 that are actually open?
Yeah.
While there may be more cases people are interested in having looked at, are they open cases? Those could be
Right.
closed now. And so this is only specific to open cases.
And the town does not have access to additional information if the FBI is investigating additional, we don't have access to that
So
information.
I think going back to what you said, capitalize the 2
Yeah.
and remove the.
I mean, that's a
Cover it for
simple.
now.
Okay, so I make a motion that we strike the and capitalize the 2 in that answer. So it says 2 deaths are either in litigation or being investigated by outside agencies. The town does not have access to additional information.
Seconded. I had to do that, Kathleen, because I
All
don't
right.
think I've seconded.
Oh,
you.
thank you, Jack.
The typo on the second line of line 2, it should be residents or plural rather than just resident in the RFP.
Yeah, that's another typo. And I'll add that related to the,
Right.
These residents or, it should be plural.
was that how maybe that was how their question was, maybe that's exactly how they worded their question? We don't
All
have to-
questions and answers were cut and pasted from emails.
Okay. All All right, so we have a second. Since that was in their question, I don't think we would correct their question. So are we going to vote on it?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Voting. We have a,
All we're doing is taking out "the," is that my understanding?
what? No, yeah, just take out the "the." And that was,
Yeah.
are you okay with that?
All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
Okay, we can move on.
In general, when typing up minutes, should I be correcting any typos or grammatical
Yes.
errors?
Yes, please.
Yeah, if you can give me a live, updated document by tomorrow morning, because we have to publish tomorrow, and I have to get this back to Mr. Scollins for distribution, so as early as possible.
All right, just to jump ahead a little bit for the sake of time, let's move on to page 4, halfway down the page. The Canton Police Department evidence inventory is audited annually by an independent auditor. Oh, I'm sorry, that was the answer. Does the police department utilize third parties? I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get to the right question here.
Who was the questioner?
This one. Was EIDE, I believe, was the name of the company?
Yeah, EIDE Bailey?
ED Bailey, yes.
Okay. And what number after the EIDE Bailey?
Let's see, mine is not numbered.
Is that it? What
I'd have to
systems?
read
So it's on page 4.
5 up from the bottom. 1, 2, 3. Is that the Canton Police Department evidence? Is that the one you're talking about?
Does the police department utilize third parties to provide evidence service? If yes, please provide a description of number of parties and services. The Canton Police Department evidence inventory is audited annually by an independent auditor. The town's financial audit includes the police department's finances. If yes, the consultants will have access.
Will the consultant?
Will the consultant have access to the accessibility to the data of those parties and key stakeholders to include in our interviews and to gain understanding? Access will be given, then the answer goes on to say, access will be given to evidence reports in police department relevant impact files. It does not include financials. So Bob specifically asked for a financial audit.
Well, it says the town's financial audit is included in the police department finances. It's part of the overall audit for the town. as far
Well,
as I
you elected to include an additional financial audit on top of the town's annual financial audit in the scope of the services.
Just to,
So that needs to be included to match what our scope says. So I moved to add in financials because that was a sticking point for you, Bob. I asked you to
I
remove
think
it.
you're misinterpreting where I had the financial, but I don't have the others right now, so I'm not gonna.
To the answer on access will be given to evidence reports in the police department's relevant impact files and financials.
Well, these are answers. If we have it in the RFP and in the scope of services, that has precedent, so.
I'll
Doesn't
second that.
matter whether we fix it here or not, it's in the scope of services, so. I don't know exactly, and I don't necessarily agree with what you're saying, so I don't want to change this at this point. Leave it in the RFP as we have it. If they have a question, then we'll come up in the questions.
Doesn't that change what's in the RFP if it's in a
No, it would be backing up, so you're saying you did want it included in the RFP, and we agreed. It wasn't why the petitions brought the article forward. We're concerned
Well, if
about
it's in there, then
adherence.
we don't have to clarify it at this point.
Right, for the
But they're
sake of
asking-
moving on, can we just
Okay. I just want to finish what I'm saying.
motion and you have my vote?
Okay, good. All right.
Yeah, I think we do have a motion and second already on the table.
Access will be given to the evidence report, the police
All in
department's
favor?
relevant impact files, and police financial
And
reports.
police financial reports.
Aye.
Okay.
Then going on to systems that identified, could you please identify which systems are utilized as shared platforms? Then it goes on to say for emergency services. So they put none. We have a 911 dispatch regional platform that is shared. So that was established probably like 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay, where is,
It's the second to last question on page 4.
oh, I see. B. Different.
Yeah, so it would be B.
So which, I'm confused as to which one we're looking at. It's under number 10, or is it a different number? 10B? Okay.
That's correct.
Okay, so what do you?
So the town has a 911 dispatch platform, which the way I'm understanding this is it's a shared platform for the other emergency services.
Yeah.
They're saying no, and this came out of the police department, so I don't want to make a change that they've approved, so.
That doesn't make it right.
Do we know what
Make it wrong
services they are? Here's the problem. If they are, then we have to know what the services are.
Go to the 911, so it's a fact.
When you call 911, you don't get the Canton Police Station. It goes to a regional dispatch, which is shared with a number of other towns.
I'm
I
not
believe it's like
aware.
Easton, Sharon, and probably,
That's the Norfolk County,
yes, so, exactly.
yes. So I don't know whether how that's shared with the police.
Shared, same platform, but different instances. I don't even know what the question, which is why I don't want to make a change to something I don't understand in the slightest.
Is there a
Other
way of
people have looked
just,
at this and said none.
is there a way of getting,
Hopefully they know what they're talking about, because I
a
don't.
way of getting an answer to that, just setting it aside and see if we can get the answer to tomorrow to confirm it?
Yeah, to sort of flag it, are you sure this is right?
Yes.
What do you say about that, Dave?
I don't think this is a big issue in terms
Yes,
of,
yeah, just review the 911 dispatch,
see if we can get. an
Norfolk
answer and
County
have it
Dispatch
happen.
Platform.
Yeah, wouldn't that qualify? You could- Yeah, if that's incorrect, then,
Have them change it.
yeah. All right, so I guess we can move on. I don't think that takes a vote to double-check something. What would you say is?
And then just the following question in regarding to data export sets, it's saying some, but not all data can be exported. I think I have trouble with that. I rarely see that data can't be exported unless there's, some kind of crazy encryption on the data, but you can still export it. The theory that not all data can be exported is, I don't know that that's correct.
Unless it's a closed database, and I'm thinking of sieges. Sieges, when the police departments, when they access sieges files, I was able to access them for many years, and I couldn't export them.
So what would,
Maybe that's what they're referencing.
Perhaps that's an access, user
No, I mean, 'cause
access level.
sieges files can't be shared. So maybe that's what they're referencing.
But they're actually asking
Story
for a
files,
specific,
they can't be shared.
3 specific file types.
well, we know the .xlsx is Excel. That obviously can be, is generic Excel, if I can use that term. So it's just, what is the .json? I mean, they surely can't be saying that Excel can't be exported, or,
Well, they're saying some, but not all can be. Well, they probably are including those two, but not the others.
Clarify if it can't be exported, maybe they just make a list of these items couldn't be exported. And then if there's ever a debate after, we could go back to the list and argue about whether that was true or not true. But at least, so, you know, I think some but not all can be exported. A list to be made of those items that will not be exported. Does that make sense?
Yes, that would be great if we could get with Louis Gitris and ask him which specific data sets cannot be exported, and I think it will be helpful for transparency going forward when we can identify which data sets cannot be exported.
Did you have some knowledge to
If I
contribute?
may, I think A, B, and C might be connected, I have no idea, but I think B is asking if the systems of CruSense, Evidence Library, IMC Velocity are shared platforms. And that goes to the next C of, again, can CruSense, Evidence Library, Exact Vision, IMC, and Velocity, again, could those be converted to the usable formats? It's just a guess, though. I don't think they're looking for, I think the answers to B and C are coming from the answer, or the question of B and C is coming from the response to question A.
Yeah,
I don't know for sure.
that would make sense.
Usually it would be further in.
I guess the point is if they can't be exported, that the company would still have access to the records that they need somehow.
Right, so can they export CruSense evidence at
His answer is
IMC and Velocity?
If he says no, then
And
I've got to go with what he said.
Well, we just need to know which,
Why?
but he says some but not
Yeah, but this is going
all
out.
can be exported. We just want to know in advance for the transparency and the sake of this, to prevent any kind of obstruction, which
All right, but we don't
which
have to
parts of
answer-
data
put
are
these
not
on-
going to be
on the question and answers right now. These have to go out.
exported.
I don't know if I can get Louis Judges to answer these. We can eventually, yes. But let's get these done and out. Doesn't matter. At this point, he's saying not all can be.
Bob,
This
is there
came from him.
any reason that later on we could just ask them and we'll send out the follow-up answer
Yeah,
later on?
we can, yeah,
Separately, okay.
Doesn't sound like Mr. Chair is going to do that.
Do what?
Get
I
some
don't think that is a
clarification.
very fair
Before it goes out?
statement that he, you know,
He
that
just made a statement that he wasn't going to
No,
do
he
it
said he'd
because
do it
Louis
late.
Gitcher said that.
we would leave it as is, and but I asked if we could then send something out after he gets the information. We are on a timeline. I thought that was enough information just to get out for now, and then he could ask Louis specifically, could you also give us a detailed list of what can be exported and what can't be?
Thank you.
So you will be doing that?
That's what I said. You apparently aren't listening.
I mean, seriously, the manners on you.
You should resign, well, I don't
You
think
are
you really
the
is.
most disrespectful human being,
You really are.
truly.
Can we, David, next question?
One moment, please.
I applaud you for being able to sit at a table with him, to be quite honest.
It's not easy.
I can see that.
Just trying to see which one to skip ahead to. Just allow me a few moments, please. Or move on to a different discussion if you need to at the moment. Please describe the protection protocol of information during the audit process with respect to public records requests and requirements, and how that will be handled.
Where's-
Yes, this is moving on to page 5.
What number?
The list I was given was in a
Oh, it
completely different format,
Okay,
so
sorry.
I.
What are the first few
you know,
words?
it's beneath the
Page 5, you said?
provide committee members different information than what we're presenting on.
Everybody got the same email, including mine. I don't know why you've got a problem, but
I apologize, Mr. Cloud, that it was in several different emails. I compiled it to one list for the ease of the audience being able to read. That is on me, and I apologize.
Oh, okay, thank you.
The chair could apologize as well for calling you out on something, but, you know.
which one were you reading now?
That was Massachusetts Public Records are available.
And that's just, okay, here we go.
Let's see, what's up?
All right, that seems a generic answer, but certainly fair, that, yeah, anybody can request requested the report as public records, and they would have to comply.
So this isn't a public records request. We provided unfettered access as a committee unanimously to the auditor. We didn't say you're just going to get a public records request and here's your data, and now it's all going to be redacted. So audit records should not be exempt. Unfettered access was granted in the scope.
I think we might be looking at the wrong, I think we're looking at the wrong question. This one is saying, does the town of Canton anticipate that this may be, the report may be issued, may be, you know, the subject of public records requests?
Please describe the protection protocols of information during the audit process. And this is something that that other vendor goes on to elaborate on the next item.
There we go. Number 12.
Yes, number 12, thank you. So I moved to,
Protection during the audit process.
I moved to amend, audit records shall not be exempt. Unfettered access was granted to all records.
That's it, number 12. Okay, so the question is, please describe the protection protocol of information during the audit process with respect to public records requests and how that will be handled. So that's talking about the information that they are using during the audit process as they are, you know, compiling the report. Is that going to be the subject? Will those records be subject to public records requests? Is that what, that's what I'm understanding. And I guess the answer is yes.
So pretty much how are they going to preserve the records?
Yeah. I don't know the answer to that. I think you're saying.
And, you know, they shouldn't be in a position where they're going to get a record that's just all grayed out because it's redacted.
I don't think we have a control over that, even unfettered. If an agency, there's information in a correspondence with another agency, and that has to be kept out, they may have to redact it. I don't know. I really can't even follow the question, never mind. Except,
Yeah.
so I have trouble trying to figure out what they're asking.
Yeah, the question is very, very vague, but I can tell you from personal experience, every police department in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, when they get an inquiry relative to a public records request, it's always run by the Secretary of State's office.
So I think their question is vague. I can't understand it.
Nor can I.
So I think,
We just got to go with the answers that are there.
there was a deadline for the questions.
Please clarify who, just to move on to jump ahead for the sake of time, since we're running up at 9:20, please clarify who the liaisons will be for the project committee members. So that would be, we're the project committee. And they're asking liaisons with a parenthesis, multiple. for the police, IT, and other personnel. And all we get for an answer is the police chief will be available.
I take that to mean that the police chief is the initial point of contact, and she'll defer other requests as needed. I mean, the police chief is the point of contact for the police department.
Well, they're asking for project committee members of the police. The chief would be covered under the police. IT would have to be Mr. Jetris. And any other identified personnel, other personnel being Mr. Scollins would be the finance director. He would have to provide financial records. The select board would have to provide oversight records. And the project committee would have to be one of us.
I think this will generalize the answer saying that the police
Police
chief
chief
will
will coordinate all of it.
coordinate it so that you can get to Lewis or whoever.
It's a very broad question.
It is.
Yeah,
Well, appropriate department heads should be liaisons. It shouldn't just, because they're not asking about just the police, because when they interact with the other departments, they're gonna need information. Because we included in this to review other departments,
And I
You have a
assume,
lead person.
which is a department head in this town.
it would be, we need to talk to IT. Who do I talk to? Well, you would go and see Lewis,
The
let me
department
call.
head, yes.
I'm sure they're using that, the head chief of police, since it is a police audit, would be the person they go to find out who these people are so that they can make contact, as opposed to just be having a list, that's all.
All right, let's just move on, since we're not gonna get anywhere with that one. So going on to the last question, can expectations for the RFP and standard contract be included as an appendix or otherwise excluded from the two-page maximum indicated for the cover letter? So refer to the RFP requirements. So I just want to clarify with you, Bob, if someone has a one-page cover letter or 1.5-page cover letter, is that an informality? Or are we going to just rule that vendor out completely as a result of their cover letter?
What do you mean by one page? It's a maximum.
That's a requirement in,
From the two-page maximum. So if it's a one-page, that should be fine. Brevity is a wonderful thing.
but say, for instance, they forget the cover letter. Would we waive that as a committee as an informality?
I wouldn't.
I wouldn't.
I would just say, can you send the cover letter?
A lot of these are boilerplate. You look at them, it goes in. If it's in there, fine. What you're looking for, people that can do the job you're interested in. If they don't dot all the i's and cross the t's, that stuff is boilerplate that goes into it. So it's in there, yes. Could it disqualify? Yeah, if you really wanted to, but I've never have. I don't think anybody else will.
I wouldn't want to.
You wouldn't want to. You're looking for the best people to do the job done. And I think we're going to have enough of a problem getting anyone, so.
So I guess that moves us to the next agenda item in regards to
Thought that was it.
concerns raised by the STRIM group. You know, I think we touched on some of those, but not all of them.
Where were you now?
Your Police Audit Committee agenda number 3.
Oh, okay. The only thing I had on that was, well, why don't we do these one at a time? If we're done revising this, we should vote with the changes as is. I would look for a motion to do that.
A motion.
Motion, second?
Second.
Discussion?
Discussion being, you know, there are some items, obviously, we wanted to be added to the questions. We voted on those. We were precluded from adding those. In the sake of moving forward with the RFP, you know, I'll move the questions out to the vendors so we can get their responses back in a timely manner. So I would second and approve the question submissions, but I'm not happy with some of the answers.
Kathleen, yes?
Yes.
Yes? David, yes? I'm yes?
Yes?
Yes, 5-0. Okay, that brings us to what you're saying is the third one, Sturm Group. The only thing I wanted to mention on that, everyone's got the letter on that. A lot of the significant concerns, namely the undefined scope, unrealistic timeframes, insufficient funding for the scale of work required, potential legal complications, and questionable accuracy within the RFP, Sturm Group has decided not to submit an RFQ response to this project. As it currently stands, this is a losing proposition for any firm that undertakes this audit. I just, they came in with a 4-page reason why they're not going to bid on it. So we'll see at the 30th what we get. I thought everybody should take a look and read that and see where it goes.
So
But
first
there's
of
no
all,
sense beating that
there's a
horse.
lot more that Mr. Larry Smith has
Yeah, there is.
mentioned. First of all, I'd like to thank him for those comments he provided to us. They're invaluable. If the town needs to redo the process, this could be a good roadmap for us. It seems like they're a very competent vendor that's done a number of police audits and have taken over other vendors' failed police audits.
According to the literature, yes.
According to his response. I haven't had a chance to review any of the work he's done, but if we do get to the point where we have to review it, this seems like a very prosperous company to move forward with. He does raise a lot of concerns about, what happens if criminal behavior is uncovered and how some of the issues that have arisen with the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office, and as I mentioned earlier, a special prosecutor is what he recommended.
Yeah, but
A
again,
retired
David, as we said,
prosecutor,
that's well beyond the scope of a police
So-
department. You can't do it. You can't.
So he was suggesting a retired federal or magistrate, not a current
Yeah, but
active federal prosecutor,
Still
someone
can't
that,
do it. He has to get his authority from some prosecutorial entity in the police department or any entity of a municipal government is not it. Can't grant it. Cannot grant it.
I'm going to reiterate that we're not lawyers and we don't know that. There may be a way for the town to appoint some sort of.
and Mr.
special
Smith may
prosecutor.
have a rebuttal
Yeah.
to that comment, which we would welcome. And just a way to establish a clear mechanism for what happens when data and documents is obstructed or delayed. He's suggesting an oversight committee or a city official or an authority to enforce compliance. So I thought that was, a very good suggestion. And then he goes on to describe the unrealistic time frame that was put out there, not by this committee, but by the ministerial people. And, I guess that's probably about it for that. But yes, thank you again to Mr. Lawrence Smith.
If I could, the one that we missed. Additionally, our team has identified potential legal risks associated with the ongoing high-profile homicide case involving Karen Reed and Sarah Birchmore. These cases have generated national global attention, and there is a strong likelihood.
I think this could jeopardize the vendors that would submit. So I think this could taint the process by finishing those comments. Like, those would be comments to use if we get to the point of redoing this process.
Yeah, I'm just finished, if I
So-
could finish reading what he had to say. Strong likelihood
I feel
that
like
any
it's a way
firm,
to
that
discourage
any firm
vendors.
conducting an operational audit can be called upon as witnesses or subpoenaed to provide records in connection with
Not
these
their guy, though.
trials. With the Karen Reed trial approaching and Sandra Birchmore investigation ongoing, the likelihood of being drawn into legal proceedings is substantial. There is a burden that any auditing firm must carefully consider, especially when the RFP offers no clear safeguards or guidance on who would bear the cost for legal expenses or compensate for the time and resources diverted to these other matters. He made a lot of points in many other areas. He also made that point, and that's something that's going to.
One other point I'd like to make,
Now that we've
besides
discouraged-
discouraging vendors,
It's not
Mr.
discouraging.
McCarthy, with his wealth of 30 years of experience, has not submitted one company to the distribution list for the RFP. I have provided several companies to the distribution list. I keep asking Bob, where's the list of companies? Mr. Kelly, I believe, has referred to that made it on to the distribution list, but it doesn't appear that those were ever emailed. So I don't know about the contact that took place beforehand.
Is it
doesn't seem
really
like-
our job? I thought this.
But I just, excuse me,
no,
sir, I just want to point out that the distribution list is very segregated in this town, where it lists out the person and people who provided those lists to create a bias. It's not a fair and equitable process, the way Mr. Scollins and Mr. McCarthy have laid it out. They've identified every vendor I've sent over and just marked my name on it. I've never seen an RFP like that. And it's just unfortunate that you haven't submitted one vendor in your wealth of experience. And no wonder the town overpays, Bob.
And
Well, you have an answer for that, why you did that? Would you care to?
Why haven't you
I
submitted to
normally
one
don't,
vendor?
and we haven't overpaid in anything. I'm a little tired of some of your comments, but we have, now at this point, we're moving in to public comment. We've got 20 minutes.
Yes, so why, I've asked you about a half dozen times in emails, you haven't responded.
Respond what?
I've asked you
Question?
tonight, why haven't you submitted the distribution list to one vendor yourself? Why haven't you provided
Don't
one
normally ever
vendor?
do that. It's
So you-
advertised, it's
you-
public.
The town's
And you-
procedure
you-
is
you've
not
done-
to
you've
send
sent
out.
to everybody and their grandmother all over the country.
is
Why
it-
reinvent the wheel?
Because I had to do this because there was a lack of responsibility on a procurement official that didn't provide one vendor to the town. Not one.
Yeah, well.
That's, now we know why things are
I'm a
very
novice to
expensive.
this, but what is the process? I would assume that the process is handled by the town to publicly, in the appropriate
You're talking
access
to the
journals.
procurement official about the
That the
process.
town handles it, and that there's some legal steps that you have to go through. And quite frankly, I didn't do it either, because that is not in my wheelhouse. I do not know what places or the agencies to ask for, and I would feel that the unbiased way of doing it, rather than soliciting, is that you do it through the public arena in the, whatever bylaws are set up in terms of advertising for these jobs.
Well,
So,
typically, a procurement official with 30 years of experience
I didn't say that-
would
that-
have
that's-
gone out to other towns such as Holyoke, where you got your RFP from, took their plan holder list and sent the RFP to everyone on that plan holder list. You could have gone to other towns
and then
that have plan
And then
holder
there could
lists
be a
and
bias
submitted that
that
out.
he's trying to selectively choose certain companies that he feels are the ones that are gonna be
He hasn't
most
chosen any.
favorable. Well, that's
No,
being impartial.
I think the public would see it as differently, that we're spreading the net as widely as possible. Come everybody and bid on this,
Not
rather
one.
than,
So the town needs to redo how they procure items. They need to reevaluate that. They need to reevaluate the people in charge of procurements, especially on $250 million buildings. And they need to update the way they request information from other communities, because that's how procurement works.
Well, maybe I could learn something from you. I doubt it, but we'll see. 20 minutes of public comment. Anybody?
are the microphones going to be turned on?
Working, no?
It has not been.
Go ahead.
Oh, he said he turned it on that way the people at home can hear.
No, that's not working.
It's not working?
Go ahead.
I was watching this meeting from home tonight.
If you use that, it'll go on the camera, though.
I don't need a microphone.
I know, but the camera won't the film won't pick it up.
And the people at home.
Is this working now?
What you're saying.
He said it is. He said it is for the people at home. Go ahead.
Okay. I was watching this meeting at home tonight. I had no plans on coming here tonight. I had something else I had to take care of. After watching what has transpired here tonight, first of all, I would like to thank Kathleen and David for your work and your reasoning in your fairness. Mr. McCarthy, I would like to say that I am embarrassed for this town being represented by you as a chairman of this committee. You have tried to kneecap this audit since it started. It's obvious that you're a chauvinist. You treat women with disrespect. You have no respect for the members of this community. This town voted for an audit. They procured $200,000, and they were told by the Finance Committee that if the cost overage was going to be more than $200,000, that the Select Board would use money from the mitigation funds. You have tried to kneecap the scope of this audit. You are an embarrassment, and your two counterparts that you have over here with you are in on the whole gig too, okay? People see what the hell is going on around here. You should be embarrassed. I feel bad for you. I can only imagine what your family life is like by the way that you talk to people. And that's all I have to say. And to the residents of Canton, God help us.
Anybody else? Thank you for your comments. I would look for a motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Keep going, believe me.
All those in favor? Kathleen, David, are you?
20 minutes on the clock.
Anybody else want to talk?
I just asked, nobody did, and I just adjourned.
You can.
Good evening. My name is Athena Yergani, and I do not live in Canton, but I am a public safety consultant. To applaud your effort, all of you, your effort in taking the time to participate in actually a very unusual process. In my 30 years, I've never seen a committee create an RFP in the public, despite some of the rules or seemingly lack thereof. I think it's very impressive that you've chosen to allow the media and the public to watch you engage in this process. Having said that, it's very unusual not to engage kind of a pre-consultant to review exactly what it is that you are trying to do to help you from a public safety, despite the colonel, despite the doctor's participation in public safety. It's just very usual, it's part of normal protocol, to engage a group, a person, a consultant, to help to draft what might fit in an RFP and how much it might cost. You kind of jumped over that to create what is really a very heavy-duty, some would say very detailed, some would say very ambiguous document that's going to be really hard for a group to really meet all of the requirements, as you've seen in the questions. And my objective is not to interfere in this process, but I'm just not sure that you are going to get the quality of vendors across the country that this town really needs. If there are both sides of the aisle, on both sides of the aisle. It's clear to me that everybody wants the best for Canton and to help move this town forward, and most importantly, to help this town heal. I'm concerned that the expectation of this audit in terms of healing the town is set at a very high bar. And I don't think that the audit as it's presented is really going to meet what you're looking for. There are certainly consulting groups that will bid on this in different ways. Many of them have expressed their concerns about potential structure
of the way this RFP has been designed, but it's just not a typical RFP, and therefore I think that consultants are having difficulty formulating responses, and I think part of the group's suggestion that vague answers to these questions may make it a little harder for qualified consultants and groups to provide you with the best that you're looking for. I don't know that this helps you at all, but again, I offer you the best of luck. And as I said at the beginning, it's very important, I think, to continue the dialogue with the community, and important to present your thoughts as a committee to the community and to hear feedback as a general comment. So good luck. Thanks for letting me speak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say that I had serious concerns that this audit committee was going to be successful, that this audit was really going to do what the citizens wanted. And the only thing I can say to that right now after this is, what a joke.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All right.